You felt it your entire life, that there's something wrong with the world. You don't know what it is, but it's there, like a splinter in your mind, driving you mad. Do you know what I'm talking about? The Matrix. The Matrix is everywhere. It is all around us. Even now, in this very room. You can see it when you look out your window, or when you turn on your television. You can feel it when you go to work, when you go to church, when you pay your taxes. It is the world that has been pulled over your eyes to blind you from the truth. What truth? That you are a slave, Neo. Like everyone else, you were born into bondage, born into a prison that you cannot smell or taste or touch. A prison for your mind.
Secretive organization known as Anonymous, a loose-knit group of computer hackers who came to the defense of WikiLeaks and got the attention of law enforcement in the process. They are young and stealthy, and they are potential giant killers.
Anonymous hacker activists have basically got together and are exacting revenge for what they see as attacks on WikiLeaks, and they're targeting a number of corporations that have cut off their ties with WikiLeaks.
So they see themselves as protesters. Essentially that the government can't prevent you or I from talking openly. They interpret it much more broadly. They believe that everybody has an inalienable right to say whatever they want on any forum whatsoever.
Now today, this group of computer hackers are apparently threatening cyber war over this WikiLeaks case. What do you know about that?
Yeah, NBC is reporting that Anonymous, it's a group we've heard of before, is threatening new attacks not only on U.S. corporations, but also on some of the government officials.
Number one story, MasterCard announced Monday it would no longer process payments to WikiLeaks. This morning, internet activist crashed its website. This afternoon, Visa.com crashed. Tonight, Twitter might be next. It suspended an Operation Payback account. A group calling itself Anonymous has been waging Operation Payback for a few months now. The group says it is dedicated to a, quote, anonymous, decentralized movement that fights against censorship and copy wrong.
Well, officials have confirmed that at least 41 Malaysian government websites had been hacked overnight. This follows a threat by hacker group Anonymous to punish the authorities for internet censorship. Officials say that 51 websites were hit and at least 41 of them were disrupted in these attacks.
Targets like HB Gary, a major cybersecurity firm some U.S. government agencies rely on to keep their computers safe. Last month, HB Gary boasted it would expose Anonymous. The response was swift. Anonymous took down their website, stole thousands of emails, and posted them on the internet. The CEO resigned. Anonymous is credited with bringing down government websites in Tunisia, Egypt, and Libya. And now it's made new threats against companies and government officials complicit in what it views as the mistreatment of Bradley Manning, the Army private accused of leaking to WikiLeaks.
Anonymous is powerful enough that it's certainly struck fear into the hearts of some of the biggest technology companies, the biggest companies in the whole world.
Our own Justice Department doesn't take any action against these guys. It's been 3 years since the debacle in Wall Street that caused our economic collapse. And where's Washington? Where's Washington? They haven't done a damn thing. But look, what you're looking at here, in combination of all these things, is a new model on how to fight back. You have to take action into your hands. Direct, peaceful resistance.
We decided long ago that the dangers of excessive and unwarranted concealment of pertinent facts far outweighed the dangers which are cited to justify it. And there is very grave danger that an announced need for increased security will be seized upon by those anxious to expand its meaning to the very limits of official censorship and concealment. That I do not intend to permit to the extent that it's in my control. For we are opposed around the world by a monolithic and ruthless conspiracy that relies primarily on covert means for expanding its sphere of influence, on infiltration instead of invasion, on subversion instead of elections, on intimidation instead of free choice, on guerrillas by night instead of armies by day. It is a system which has conscripted vast human and material resources into the building of a tightly knit, highly efficient machine that combines military, diplomatic, intelligence, economic, scientific, and political operations. Its preparations are concealed, not published. Its mistakes are buried, not headlined. Its dissenters are silenced, not praised. No expenditure is questioned, no rumor is printed, no secret is revealed.
Uh-oh, SpaghettiOs. You could be in a lot of trouble. Now, people have figured out that you can hit the powerful where it counts in their pocketbooks. The same thing happened in Egypt, where Mubarak only stepped down after the labor strikes began. And then there's the national and international movement against the power establishment. The group Anonymous recently released this video warning the global banking systems.
We are a decentralized, non-violent resistance movement which seeks to restore the rule of law and fight back against the organized criminal class.
Now that's a little spooky, but I liked it. And apparently they came armed with documents, which we're going to tell you about in a second. But look, what I like is peaceful resistance.
However, they can't just randomly launch an attack. And in order to do it, you have to go on this IRC chat. Anyone can suggest a target. That person then has to make a compelling case for the target, and then whoever happens to be, it's a quorum of whoever happens to be awake, can vote up or down on this target. So if somebody has not made a compelling enough case, enough people may pull their computers off of this voluntary botnet that the attack might not be nearly as effective. So it is, in fact, an amazing kind of Athenian democracy. If you forget sort of the ethics of what they're doing, place that to one side, what they've achieved is sort of this set of checks and balances that agrees in a very fluid way on what the target is.
This is the new model of fighting back against the establishment and against corporate power. Don't wait for your knight in shining armor to show up from D.C. The bad news is he ain't coming. The good news is it turns out you're the knight in shining armor.
I believe that Gandhi's views were the most enlightened of all the political men in our time. We should strive to do things in his spirit, not to use violence in fighting for our cause, but by non-participation in anything you believe is evil.
what's next? What's next is all they can do is shut down the internet itself. And we see how that went for them in Egypt. And we, the people, know that when the government shuts down the internet, that's when it's time to shut down the government. We are anonymous. We are Legion. We do not forgive. We do not forget. Expect us. And now, you can expect a whole lot more.
Hello, free people of the world. This is Anonymous. It's time to stand up and face the New World Order. Your country calls for you to follow orders and to stand in place like a slave drone. We call for you to say no. We call for you to say you are anonymous. You have the right to stay anonymous, and so shall we do so. Go to protest and stand up for what you believe in. Stand up for what is right. Stand up and say you are anonymous. We are anonymous. We are Legion. We do not forgive. We do not forget. Expect us.
Good evening. We begin tonight with a rare look inside Anonymous.
They're this shadowy and motley group of hackers and activists who answer to no one, drawn together by love of internet mischief.
Well, now they're evolving into this movement of social change, a real driving force behind the Wall Street occupiers. No surprise, they're hated by corporate security, but also hunted by the FBI.
And one of the questions we're asking is, who are these people and why are they taking to the streets? To get some answers, Amber Lyons stepped into the shadows.
Back up. It's a dark and disturbing vision. A world where riot police attack with impunity.
What happened? He got shot. Get back.
Where democracy is corrupted by greed and dissent is crushed. That's how Anonymous sees America. And they say that's why they're fighting back.
We are Legion. We do not forgive. We do not forget.
It's a movement that defies description. Leaderless.
Tell me what democracy looks like.
Faceless. Anarchic.
This is our space.
A loose collective born on the internet, Anonymous has no official members and no hierarchy. But within the group, some individual Anons have greater standing, earned by their skills as hackers, video makers,
to see it with my own eyes and record it myself,
and increasingly street-level activists.
Tell me what police looks like.
Troy, not his real name, is one of them.
This is what happens when the people have had enough. This is what happens when greed goes unchecked.
Troy says he was drawn to Occupy Wall Street after watching his mother struggle with medical debts. He himself is working 2 jobs to make ends meet, despite having a college degree.
You kind of just lose track of days, lose track of time, but it's worth it. It's all worth it.
We met him at the Occupy Wall Street camp at Zuccotti Park.
There's no specific person that talks for us. It's more like a hive, you know, an idea is brought up and whoever agrees with it, if the overwhelming majority of people that agree with it, then we go with it.
So we're following Troy, and he's been out here policing, kind of making sure that all of these protesters are getting along with the community and not causing any problems.
We're handling internal affairs as far as damage control within the community, making sure that everybody's respecting the local small businesses around here. How's it going? How's it going?
But he's not just watching over the protests. He's also watching the police. Part of the evolution of Anonymous from hackers to activists. Anonymous was born a decade ago in one of the weirdest and darkest corners of the internet. An anything-goes image board called 4chan. 4chan users post anonymously, and the name stuck.
We do not forgive.
The group adopted a distinct identity and its own symbolism. A mask taken from the movie V for Vendetta. A retelling of the story of the English rebel Guy Fawkes and his plot to blow up the House of Lords in 1605. Instead of gunpowder, Anonymous uses the internet. Anonymous attacks its targets by flooding and crashing corporate and government websites, or digging up and publicizing highly embarrassing information. It's called trolling. They troll targets out of genuine outrage, but also just for fun.
LULZ, it's a kind of pluralization and bastardization of laugh out loud.
New York University professor Gabriella Coleman has been watching Anonymous for years.
It's a term that kind of denotes this sort of pleasure, humor, laughter, everything from something which is quite playful, harmless, to engaging in a kind of full-fledged trolling attack that humiliates.
Anonymous's campaigns, known as operations or ops, can be dramatic. In late 2010, a distributed denial of service attack took down the website of PayPal after the company cut off support for the online whistleblower site WikiLeaks.
PayPal continues to withhold funds from WikiLeaks, the beacon of truth in these dark times.
16 Anons were arrested by the FBI, charged with conspiring to intentionally damage PayPal's computers.
This is a message from Anonymous to the Bay Area Rapid Transit System, BART.
This summer, Anonymous attacked the San Francisco area's public transportation system, BART. BART had cut cell service within the transit system as a way of disrupting anti-police brutality protests. Anonymous's reaction was devastating and vicious.
We will not issue any more warnings.
Op BART included the release of a naked photo of a senior BART employee.
Sometimes it kind of makes you laugh, sometimes it makes you cringe, sometimes it makes you laugh and cringe at the same time. All of a sudden, you're like, oh my gosh, there is this, dagger that's being thrown.
And a naked photo.
Yeah, a naked photo.
Do you feel like there is a fear out there of what they could possibly find or leak about a certain individual?
Absolutely. I mean, that's what makes them who they are, is that they are kind of bad boys and rude boys to some degree. There is a dual sort of fascination and horror that goes on at the same time.
Be aware, be vigilant.
Anonymous was evolving, using its power to shock and disrupt to effect social change. During the Arab Spring, the collective emerged as a full-fledged activist group, taking up the cause of Tunisians fighting against a repressive regime, literally saving lives.
The Tunisian government has made itself an enemy of Anonymous.
They did everything from take down government websites. They wrote scripts to stop the phishing of passwords. They brought massive media attention to Tunisia.
And last fall, Anonymous broke cover here at home, stepping out from behind their secure computer screens for a new cause, Occupy Wall Street.
There is a revolution brewing.
Suddenly, the symbols of Anonymous were everywhere, in flags, masks, banners.
We are the 99%.
When we return, pepper spray and Anonymous strikes back.
How are they getting personal information of these officers?
I'd rather not say.
The shadowy internet group known as Anonymous has grown now far beyond its hacker roots. It's now emerging as a forceful public relations weapon for the Occupy protest movement. Amber Lyon takes you inside Anonymous.
We are Anonymous.
Anonymous likens itself to the Air Force of the Occupy movement.
Everyone, everywhere will be occupying their towns, their capitals, and other public spaces.
Anonymous has an array of people on the streets. We're talking medics in San Francisco, tech support in Washington, D.C. And here in New York, guys like Troy. Troy, not his real name, is part of an army of citizen journalists documenting the movement and the police by broadcasting live video over streaming sites. When they see evidence of what they believe is police misbehavior, Anonymous strikes back, releasing personal information about specific officers.
And hopefully he'll think twice before he pulls out his baton against somebody who's holding a sign saying we just want peace.
And how are they getting cell phone numbers and personal information of these officers or bankers?
I'd rather not say.
In September, an NYPD officer named Anthony Bologna was filmed pepper spraying 2 protesters. Anonymous took direct action.
We will unleash hell on your phones, your servers, and anything else we can find.
One of the most active subgroups within Anonymous is called the Cabin Crew. Their specialty is doxing. It's shorthand for combing the internet for all the information you can find about a target and then releasing it publicly.
Cabin Crew have noticed the injustices being committed by the New York police.
Cabin Crew compiled Bologna's name, his home address, past legal actions, even the names of his family members, and put it all online. After a police investigation and public pressure, Bologna was placed on leave and reassigned to Staten Island.
What do you think that did to the NYPD when they saw this officer's information get posted online?
I think that they would see it as a form of vigilantism. They're pushing the boundaries of the law. But I think some of their actions also reveal the ways in which either private security companies or police are also acting outside of the boundaries of the law.
Anonymous's biggest coup in the propaganda wars was this. An Anon group by the name Operation Leaks posts the clip on YouTube. The next day, the clip tops 100,000 views. 3 days later, 1.5 million. The casually spraying cop had it all. It was outrageous, ridiculous, lulzy, and effective.
Police in riot gear sprayed students.
Pepper spraying student protesters.
The incident was picked up by the mainstream media and replayed over and over again.
Nice shopping.
Anonymous wants to frame the narrative of the Occupy movement as a contest between peaceful protesters and a militarized police state. Oh my gosh. Reality, though, isn't quite so clear-cut. At Occupy Oakland, some protesters attacked the police with rocks and bottles. Others erupted in a fury after the city tore down their encampment.
They're getting a little heated. Some people are trying to tear down this fence and head into the main area, but others are trying to keep them quiet and calm so that the police don't have to get re-involved.
I need some help. We need some more help over here. You're f***ing willing to fight us, but not the police? They tried the police, and you're doing their job.
The Anonymous PR machine focused solely on instances where the cops got out of line. And they have plenty of ammunition.
What happened? What happened? He got shot.
During one night of chaos, police apparently fired a projectile directly at a former Marine named Scott Olson, who was peacefully protesting against the crackdown. Anonymous went into overdrive.
I hereby declare this to
video for police badge numbers and names, offering a reward for anyone who could identify the officer responsible. The case is still under investigation. The Department of Homeland Security has put out several alerts to law enforcement and corporate security focused mainly on the group's hacking activities. And the FBI has made more than a dozen arrests.
We're living in a police state.
But there's no indication that has cramped Anonymous's style. Their latest op?
Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year to all on planet Earth.
On Christmas Day, members crashed the website of a security research company, hacking its client list along with their credit card numbers in order to steal $1 million for donations to charity.
We are anonymous. Expect us.
And our correspondent Amber Lyon now joins us here in studio. A little frightening,
yeah,
a little scary.
Slightly, especially for law enforcement in many aspects.
You know, I got to ask, so what if they get it wrong? What if they put up some personal information that is inaccurate? Do they have any accountability?
There's very little accountability. Because of the way Anonymous is organized, anyone can claim to be anonymous. There's also a lot of extreme outliers. And you know, law enforcement is intimidated by Anonymous. We tried to get an interview with anyone federally or locally, and they refused to send an officer forward kind of to the chopping block because they feared that if this officer appeared on camera, they could become a target of Anonymous.
This is an anonymous message from the global revolution to politicians, dictators and plutocrats all over the planet. Surprised by the global disobedience? Let us explain to you your delicate situation. Tens of thousands of years ago, human beings began to evolve. Since then, our species has walked a dark and bloody road, which isolated people condemned to live in fear caused by ignorance, knowledge, ethics and technological development have always been conditioned by the elite and their wars, which is in the Orwellian metaphor, have done nothing more than perpetuate vertical and obscurantist social schemes. We have arrived to the 21st century of our era, after 2 world wars, endorsing the possibility of nuclear conflict with assured mutual destruction. Their so-called economists and intellectuals, having announced that it was the end of the story, it seemed, more than ever, that looking for a fairer order was meaningless. Thinking that they had slowed our rational development enough, they let us carry on with a progress model whose sole objective was never more than to make them even richer and more powerful. However, they did not consider that the real human spirit refuses to go, always. While they believed they were overcoming us by using economic shocks, our species has evolved in a new manner. Using only the powers of culture and freedom, we have reused those technological resources that were born of our genius and that were only provided to us with consumerist intentions. So we have updated, improved and immunized our force operations and effectiveness. We absorb their own tactics, techniques and power of persuasion to form our own means, dreams and challenges. Today, the revolution is spreading around the planet as a challenge to their oppression, and they shamelessly try to shut down our freedom of expression. Finally, information has reached critical mass, exploding in a melting pot of voices whose new wishes and needs can't be covered by their old paradigm. Now, physically and digitally interconnected, we form a huge collective consciousness. Maybe their corporate media silences what is happening, but they cannot fool us anymore. They can temporarily stop some points, but the process will continue unstoppable and ever-changing. Now it doesn't matter which measures they take for trying to counteract us. The more violence, censorship and obstacles they put in our way, the more they expose their weakness. From every place on the earth, with different ideas and from different conditions, women and men have always existed and always will exist to oppose the pretense of undemocratic and unjust governments. After millenniums of suffering, our species has stood up, and nothing will ever be the same. Their totalitarian game is ending. But friends, the story hasn't ended. This is where it begins. We will take the streets and occupy. Change is happening. The people should know.
I hereby declare this to be an unlawful assembly.
right, welcome to Anonymous Bites Back, episode 45. This is your host, Tyler. Would our guests like to introduce themselves for a second?
Preston from Texas.
What's up, guys? I'm Jim Lee from climateviewer.com, climateviewer.org, and weathermodificationhistory.com. Boom.
Gotcha.
Surprise, surprise.
Well, there was a few things in today's news that we kind of want to cover. One of them was Julian Assange. The charges against the rape allegations are not going to be pursued according to what I've seen. But what was I gonna say? You guys know the backdrop on that story, right?
Yeah, well, the Swedes dropping charges, these rape allegations, but I'm kind of confused on what's holding him back exactly from just walking out of there. I mean, I thought that was the only thing going. Why would he still be hiding out?
They still got an extradition calls on him, right?
Yeah,
to
on the U.S.
Right?
Yeah, and there's also a warrant on him for bailing, I think, court in the UK, and he's afraid that once he steps out, that they will take him into custody. Of course, they will up to 12 months, and then what they're afraid is that there's some back end deal that they think that he will be extradited to the U.S., which I think is absolute baloney, you know. But they probably do. But they probably do have an extradition order for him to go back to the U.S.
Yeah, it seems like we've said we're going to pursue that.
Yeah, I would say Julian Assange, you know, and I think even Snowden are always going to be a high priority when it comes to extradition and incrimination. Yeah.
Yeah. Yep. Sure enough.
Yeah. Remember back in he kind of disappeared for a bit. Julian out of the public's eye. It was in October of last year. You remember that? Everybody was asking if he was dead.
Oh, well, yeah, if he had gotten assassinated or something. Yeah, something was going, some kind of coup on him.
Yeah.
Yeah, the whole
guess that
Proof of
passed,
Life campaign, even like Kim.com was raising hell about it.
Yeah, even if you know, if you know anything about Julian, you know, he has a habit of doing stuff like that. So that wasn't surprising, but even Alex Jones was jumping on the bandwagon, saying that he was afraid that he was in a closet and being tortured, or worse, he had been killed. But even if he went to Ecuador or some other country and had got out of the Ecuadorian embassy, there's no guarantee that he won't be snatched up by a foreign agency and held in a detention center and tortured. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Ask Chelsea Manning.
Yeah. Speaking of which, Chelsea Manning got out 2 days ago. 2 days ago.
That's right.
Yep.
World's changing quickly, isn't it?
Yeah. I don't know. There's just something in my gut that's telling me, either Julian's gonna do something weird and try and leave the Ecuadorian embassy, or he's gonna stay there indefinitely.
I don't see him walking out of free, man. I don't.
Neither
see
do
any
I.
way.
He's stuck like
he's got zero chance of walking free, and at the very least, when you're talking about technocrats and bankers, a real big bone to pick with him, because the only reason that technocrats can rule the world in secrecy is because they have secrets, and anybody that fucks with their secret system. So I don't see, unless some magical force, he gets a force field or
jetpack,
buys a spot on the moon. You know what I mean? He goes and joins the Nazis on the dark side of the moon. I don't know, bro. I don't see it.
Yeah, I don't. I just don't see it. I just don't see anything. I could see him chilling out there for another 5-6 years, but
wait. I want to take that back because I also like to play devil's advocate. And I believe in the secret. So I believe what you put out in the universe affects the universe. So I don't want to damn him to hell by saying that. So what I'm going to say is this. Maybe, just maybe, when Hillary's ass is thrown in jail and they proved that Seth Rich really did steal the emails and there was no Russian hacking, that Julian Assange will be given the Nobel Peace Prize and Donald Trump will pardon him. Boom. There is hope.
And then we woke up.
Yeah, I mean, seriously, dude, you got to remember, you got to laugh. I mean, some of this stuff will make you want to cry on a daily basis. Saul has so much fear, uncertainty, and doubt. And I hope the best for him. You know, history will be the judge of Julian Assange and the whole WikiLeaks thing. Their history's been flawless. Does anybody know their motives? I don't know. I mean, it all seems to shit on U.S. It'd be nice if they actually went and hacked the Russians or the Chinese. I mean, Chinese got the Great Firewall of China.
Yeah.
But WikiLeaks only seems to kick U.S. ass. So I appreciate the transparency that they brought our way. But I have to also question the one-sidedness of their work. Is that fair?
Yeah.
So,
I never really thought of that.
Yeah, I mean, I'm just trying to make people think critically about this because I've thought about it for a long time. And do I believe that it's in our best interest for gross secrets to come out? And I think that's necessary for society to move forward. But after 10 years, I'm waiting for you to dump on China or Iran or Russia. I know you got to translate all that shit. I know it's a lot of work, but when I see you only dumping on one target repeatedly, I cannot at some point believe that it's just because magically the people supplying you information just all happen to be American. So that's just questionable for me personally.
Yeah.
Nonetheless, I love reading the emails.
I don't know. I was kind of like when those user manuals for the After Midnight NSA spy tool was out. Or it's not a spy tool. I think it was a hack. The version 1.4. It was in Vault 7.
Oh yeah, the CIA drop. Yeah. I didn't even look at it. I'm like, I know what's in there, man. I've done this before. I remember HB Garrett.
Oh, it's funny, this, a lot of what was in Vault 7, made it to the major headline news, and then that the NSA had spy tools, and it was like not only was it as bad as we thought, but it also went down to the basic firmware of some of the network interface cards.
It's a special collection service. They actually have a tailored operations access division that actually talks to the man. All right, I'm gonna get a little deeper because that's a waste of your fucking time. Most people know that. Do you know this? There's a law in the book called CALEA. Have you ever heard of it?
No.
Dude, let's just cut to the bullshit. It's called the Communications Assistance for Law Enforcement Act. It requires, by law, every single internet service provider in America and any that connects to America to keep like 90 days worth of your entire access on file. And it requires them by law to have taps on file so that at any moment the government has direct access to your direct feed. So even if you're on encryption, even if you're on a VPN, even if you're tore the fuck up, you are tracked. And there's a big old chunk of 90 days worth of your data there at your ISP by law, which is required by CALEA. So if that's the case, it's like they got a freaking DVR that's running on a 90-day loop by law at every ISP. And at any moment during that time, they can listen live. Microsoft has a patent called Microsoft Patent for Legal Intercept. And in it, not only does it say that they record and store every single bit of data on Xbox, on every single Microsoft device or social connection, that they can, quote, change the content on the fly and retransmit it to the sender. That means that you could be talking to somebody in text and saying, you know, meet me at the corner of such and such. And on the other end, it's saying, you go fuck yourself. And they have a patent for that. It's Microsoft patent for legal intercept. Go look at it. So if these two things are true, you know, like everybody's like riding this real rocky bullshit belief system that any of this is private. Am I right?
Well, I personally gave up that idea long ago. Yeah, you know, if you be an electrical engineer, I mean, I see it from the ground up. You know, it's like, man, all these chips and, you know, are backdoored from Intel, and you know, if you can't have a platform that's secure, you know, the software, there's no way. I mean,
that's a little closer to the answer, but I personally, and I'm not trying to like run your show, man. I'm gonna shut up. I told him I would shut up. I told him I'm long-winded. I'm gonna shut up. But here, my solution would probably be open source hardware, because until we actually have open source hardware, like truly open source plug and play, socketed, you know, I want to throw 3 CPUs in this bitch. Bam, bam, bam. And we know that the code and everything has been open source, never touched by NSA, that 6th core on my freaking Core i7 that never does shit. You know, you're running 3D Studio Max, you're running Photoshop, you're crunching videos on Premiere, and you're going, I got 6 core. Why does that 6 core never do anything? Because that's the NSA's core. And it only turns on whenever they're using that son of a bitch. And it mirrors everything just like Twitch TV. So I mean, we got a long way to go, brother man. Because it's just gotten worse and worse and worse. And nobody gave a damn while they were designing all these hyper threading and, you know, TCP/IP version 6 Teredo tunneling. I mean, wait the fuck up. It's called Microsoft TAP for a reason. TAP. It's like, anyway. Yeah, I mean, I feel like I'm in a fucking bizarro world when I talk to people about this stuff. But anyway, I'll shut up.
Well, doesn't that throw out, I mean, is there any point into having any of these so-called secure apps running on your phone or on your PC? I mean, what? Because it's not true. The fact is that they shouldn't even be telling you that that you are encrypted or that you have any security, because you really don't.
Well, I mean, it's in essence, you know, it isn't secure. I mean, because of all the back end shit that's running. You know, no, legally you can't say it's secure. No. Absolutely not.
So you can be on WhatsApp or Snapchat and they supposedly dump everything, you know, I mean, but that doesn't mean anything, you know.
According to the CALEA law, even WhatsApp would have to have legal access to their data according to the CALEA law. Every app, every company that's US based, that's US on US soil. Any .us, you can't even have domain privacy on that. Does that make any sense at all? That if you get a .us, you can't have domain privacy on it?
No.
So freaking weird. It's fucking weird, dude. Anyway. I think it goes back to open source hardware, and I'm waiting for the day I really see it. Hell, it's probably on the internet right now.
What are you talking about? The open source hardware?
Yeah, I mean, I had a dream about this shit.
Okay, let's talk about this.
Let's see if somebody already made it.
What are we talking about?
Well, no, you have to be a chip maker. I mean, if you want to, you have to take it to that level.
Huh?
Because if you're just using their chips.
15, 2017, Open Source Hardware Association. My niggas. I got to read this stuff. Yep. Open source What is open hardware? I knew it was a thing.
501. It's open. It's a 501c3 nonprofit, right? The one in Colorado. No.
Okay, I'm on opensource.com. What is open hardware? Open hardware or open source hardware refers to the editions of physical object which are licensed in such a way that said object can be studied, modified, created, and distributed by anyone. Open hardware is a set of design principles and legal practices, not a specific type of object. The term can therefore refer to any number of objects like automobiles, chairs, computers, robots, or even houses. Like open source software, the source code of open hardware, schematics, blueprints, logic designs, all that stuff is available for modification and enhancement. So basically we're talking about the internal chip design, like the inside, the part that Microsoft and IBM and AMD underground, that when you can find a chip that is open chip, freaking security, because right now the CIA, the NSA, all these guys, they hoard 0 days.
Yep.
And because they hoard 0 days, there is no security.
Yep.
Because they're not good at keeping their 0 days.
Yeah, no, it ends up in really funny places like shadow brokers, right?
Yeah, like shadow brokers with the WannaCry and all that shit. And this has happened so many freaking times. Stuxnet, dude, when they dropped Stuxnet and blew up those reactors over in Iran, that shit was a joint Israeli, you know.
Well, it
US
was Mossad and CIA.
Yeah, I mean, that's what I'm saying. Israel, U.S., Mossad, you're more specific, Mossad, CIA. They made a nuclear bomb code out of 4 open source, you know, for 0 days. And then that shit got, open sourced on the internet now. So basically we've jumped from malware that just infects your operating system and software to these are hardware codes like going on the, what the hell you call it? The SCADA. You know what I'm talking about? SCADA?
Like a SCADA attack?
Yes, it's supervisory control of access.
I've heard of them, but I'm not really familiar with them.
Okay, so SCADA is like a second internet, and it doesn't, it's not physically connected to the internet. It should be separate, completely physically separate, but it's what controls all the pipelines, the water, all the physical objects of the world that the government uses to run and maintain order. So SCADA has been violated for years. Chinese said they could shut all our power off in a minute. Stuxnet was like a SCADA virus because it actually went into the servos of that motor and shut it off. There's viruses today that will go into your CPU and overclock that bitch, put 24 volts through it.
Yes.
You know what I'm talking about? Smoke your box. So, I mean, everybody lives with this illusion like any of this shit is secure. So what's scary, I mean, I'm going to shut up after this. What? Because I need a cigarette. Woo! Seriously, like when we're putting all of our freaking financial records, all of our health records, everything, they're just putting all of it online. And then, people believe the hype, they want to build, just type everything and they don't give a shit. No privacy whatsoever. At some point, you have to say to yourself, why can't I like reset my social security number like a password? Why do we even have identities at all if it's just going to be completely out there? Who pretends like they're anonymous at all when your fucking DNA is in some database? Because when you were born, they take it from your kid while you're not looking, and they go ahead and put it in there. So every kid today, their DNA is in a freaking computer somewhere without consent.
I was going to say, yeah, mine's
somebody can steal it.
I was like, yeah, mine's in an FBI database.
Yeah, I mean, it's in there, dude.
Yeah.
For certain. So, I mean, we're in this situation where we just keep putting more of ourselves down to our DNA code on the internet in boxes that are made of toilet tissue, and they're floating on a piece of bubble gum in the ocean. I think that's a good analogy.
Pretty much.
A wet paper bag.
I think that's really why so many anons are just having lulls every day, is because these things are easily knocked over because they weren't designed to be secure to begin with. They, by design, were made with a hole in it. And the hole was for the government to spy on you. So if the government can spy on you, other people can play with you, insert stuff in your orifices and ports and all that stuff. So, I mean, at the end of the day, this is really about, do we want any secrecy? Because if there were no secrecy, there would be no spies. If there were no spies, there'd be no cyber weapons, there'd be no secrets from them. I mean, we still got the whole, internet and criminals and everything to deal with, but at least they wouldn't be hoarding 0 days.
Well,
and some of this would be secure.
What you're saying actually makes sense because they do work for the public, so everything that they do should be, should be access to the people. That's I don't know.
Have you ever heard of Data Love?
No.
There's a website out there. It's from back in the day called Data Love, and it's got like the Data Love mantra or whatever. And is it even alive still? I think it's gone. Holy shit, it's dead. But they've got a slogan, and it's about like how data should never be locked. It says data should never be locked. Is one of the lines on it. And that's really what it's about. Do you believe that everything should be free and open? And I don't know. Shit, man. I've never been the one who had to walk in the White House and they're like, look, I know you thought that you were going to find out some crazy shit, but it's worse than you thought, and here's why. And then you go, oh, well, if people knew that, they'd kill each other right now. You know what I mean? So I'm not that big in the pants, and you have to trust somewhat that they're good people. And obviously there are, or the world would have killed itself by now. Right?
Yeah.
That's true.
So, you got to pick. The way I look at it is everybody has a place, and, the hacktivists, I hope that they, get the bad guys. That makes them the good guys. I hope that they, that everybody roots for the good guys, right?
Well, yeah, remember we were even talking about, 0 days that Sabu was given to Jeremy, So essentially, FBI gave Jeremy the 0 day exploits to hack Stratford.
Who's Sabu? What are you talking about?
Never mind.
Oh, Lord. Yeah, the more interesting one was the HB Gary one, because like the whole WikiLeaks thing went down, and then the girl got the HB Gary stuff, and that was like, you find out about persona management software where they got a fucking Air Force operator can sit in a computer chair and operate 50 Facebook accounts simultaneously. And it's basically like a VMware, and it's got multiple images in it. So you just load up several freaking images, bam, bam, bam. You put them up on each screen, and they got a full life history on them. So these are like military controlled sock puppets. And literally 50 per kit. You just load up a kit, and you can load multiple kits at a time. I talked to a guy one time when I was playing an MMO game, and he was in my guild, and the dude worked for the NSA, and he told me, I looked at him, I said, how do you control all 6 of those characters at the same time? Because we knew, like everybody knew that the guy controlled 6 characters. I was like, how the fuck do you do that? And he says, well, I work for the NSA. I was like, bullshit. He's like, seriously.
What?
I have this thing on my eye, and whenever I move my eye to the left, it just switches the screen in front of me. So I actually don't have 6 screens, but I do. I was like, what? And this was like 10, 15, 20 years ago.
What the fuck?
Yeah, so what he was doing was he was actually running all 6 copies of the game in different virtual machines, which were actually designed for him to troll people on the internet probably, but whatever. And instead, he was running this MMO game. He had bought 6 accounts. He was paying 6 monthly fees and was literally operating all 6 accounts with his eyeball by flicking it left and right.
Oh, that's some crazy shit.
Yeah, seriously. And I was like, it looks like he's operating really fast. I'm seeing like 2 at a time moving, and sometimes as many as 3 at a time doing things. That's crazy, dude. And I'm like, do you have like 4 or 5 keyboards? How you... It's like, no, just one keyboard. And it's basically like, I guess he's using Linux and, switching, workspaces with his eye. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Something like that, You're freaking amazing. So, that's the kind of shit that we don't know is going on. And if the government does it, we know that. I saw an article on like Bank of America has a troll legion. That's what they do. They got multiple accounts that troll your ass all day.
That I've heard of. Yeah, that was amazing that the bank can actually make money doing that.
Really, they pay people to
Just
troll or
like
counter
through,
the trolls.
No,
just like scroll through Facebook, see if there's any like illegal activity, and then they just turn them in. You get paid for it.
Mm-hmm. I worked for a company one time that told me that if I said the word Bank of America online and I said anything negative about it, that I would be fired immediately.
Isn't that they actually declared that illegal though?
Well, they told me that last year.
Yeah, there's actually a law against that now. You can't be fired.
Yeah, well, they still do it. It's pretty crazy. I mean, so yeah, there are companies today that will tell you if you talk bad about our company, our trolls will let us know, and that's your ass. Seriously, that's crazy, right? So, I mean, I don't know. I guess at the end of the day, when we talk about the deep state, the fact remains that the government's built this huge data hoover. It has no safety whatsoever. And that's why, like, I mapped it all out, and I'm like looking at the size and scope of all this junk, and I'm going, if they got that much data and none of it's secure, because it's, the saying goes, a computer is secure until it isn't, and they all won't be at some point, So, like, you can only brute force for so long, and then the damn thing's broken. And I mean, even with the best, whatever they can come up with, somebody can come up with something better to break it. So that's just the nature of the beast. I mean, no matter how good you think you are, there's going to be some fresh kid. He's going to look at it in a different way, and they're going to break into the NSA. They're going to steal it all again. It'll happen 5-10 years from now. You watch. So why do we allow them to do it at all? You know what I mean?
There's that one guy. God, what was his name? I think they found him in Greece. He hacked the Pentagon. Remember what he was looking for? He was looking for UFOs. Remember that?
Oh man, no, I heard one recently where it was like they were like anonymous hacked NASA and they found out about chemtrails. And I'm like smacking my effing head over and over again. Going, oh my God, this is the kind of shit that's coming out today. I mean, I remember when, it seemed like it mattered, the stuff that was coming out, but I don't know. It gets weird every year.
Yeah, I don't think it was a hack. I think it was a DDoS. I think
there was something about an extraterrestrial officer. There was like names.
What?
It was multiple people. You talk about like a NASA hack?
Yeah.
Yeah, there was some weird reports that came out of that. I don't know if they're true or not. I mean, it wasn't out for long.
The chemtrails wasn't. It was. They were actually like. I actually into the chemtrail thing. I talk about it, but it's like they were testing biofuels for contrail control. It's called the Access flights, and I'd been talking about it on my website for like 3 years. And I see like all of these pages going, they have discovered the chemtrail secret program. It's called Access, and I'm going, facepalm, facepalm, facepalm. Like I have this advertised on my website, and you guys are freaking out about it. But no. Like that was a NERP, I was like, what is that? But no, go figure, dude.
Access program. Now that's something we've talked about a lot on this show. Well, not recently, but in the the early stages of this show was chemtrails, and a lot of people don't believe in it. And there was this one guy. I think he was in Kansas. He was a farmer, and there was a lot of he was reporting like a lot of chemtrails. So what he did is he did soil samples from the topsoil from after fresh till, and he was saying that the soil samples when he brought it back were filled with some form of aluminum, which was kind of uncommon. Was kind of uncommon to the area.
Yeah, and I mean, at the end of the day, aluminum is in the jet fuel itself, and that's it's one of the things I talk about it's kind of a weird one. I actually spoke in Washington D.C. at a hearing on chemtrails, and what I said was that these clouds are full of metal. The metal comes from jet fuel. if you look at the, I don't want to get too nerdy, man. I'm a nerd this show out, but
don't worry about it.
if you go to the IPCC section on metal and soot particles, there's a quote in there and says aluminum, barium, chromium, and all these metals are present in the contrails and exhaust, but they're estimated to be in the parts per billion. So a couple things jump off the page at me. Right after that, it says 1975. I said, get the fuck out of here. So this is a report from this year, and they you estimate that they're in the parts per billion, and the guess you made was made in 1975. Get the fuck out of here. So I said, I really had to look into it. It turns out there's some scientists who have flown up there. There's a guy named Dr. Rangsai Halthori. He's from the Aviation Climate Change Research Initiative at the FAA. I interviewed him. And I basically looked at him like this, and I said, bro, man, dude, so I understand you guys have been making clouds since the 50s. You got sued in the 70s. You said you were going to fix it in the 70s. The state of Illinois and New Jersey sued the airline industry because they had blocked out the sun. This is no bullshit. And it was Secretary of Transportation Volpe. He stepped in to try to mediate the whole thing. And the airline industry said, we're going to put new burner cans on our jet engines, and that'll make the clouds go away. 70% reduction in aerosol generation. And I was like, okay, wait for it. I got newspaper 1980. Clouds over Chicago blanketed by fucking airline emissions. So it didn't work. Clouds never went away. Flash forward to today, they're using biofuels for contrail control. George Bush signed a law saying you got to use biofuels. Airline industry says we're going to use biofuels on takeoff to kill less people around airports. When we get up in the air, we're going to put a ton more sulfur in there, and that's going to make clouds that cool the planet instead of heating the planet. Because it turns out chemtrails trap heat like a blanket. They cool during the day, but they trap heat at night. So the doctor from the FAA, no shit, told me we want to make clouds by day, none by night. So this isn't even a conspiracy anymore, bro, man. When a doctor at the FAA says, yo, me and Ulrich Schumann, and Ulrich Schumann said this to the ICAO, the International Civil Aviation Organization, in 2010, he said we need less warming, more cooling contrails, predictable for operational control. And that German dude made a program that tells you when planes are going to make clouds. No shit. Then I asked the doc, I swear to God now, it's called COSIP, Contrail Cirrus Prediction Tool, COSIP. So I called the doctor at the FAA. I said, hey, man, I read that Ulrich Schumann says he wants to make cooling clouds. That means he doesn't want to get rid of the clouds. That means this isn't a conspiracy, bro. This means that you guys are trying to actually geoengineer the planet with clouds, yo. And the doctor said, well, I mean, we do want to make more contrail-induced cirrus clouds by day and none by night. And the reason why is because they trap heat at night. And if they make them in the day and not at night, then hopefully they can cool the planet. Then they can make a bunch of carbon credit money.
Yeah.
And not have to pay all the carbon taxes for all the fucking clouds that are trapping heat.
No shit.
I just dropped the entire chemtrail conspiracy in under 2 minutes. That's like a personal fucking record for me. So I gotta shoot a shout out with my shit. My website is climateviewer.com, and go to climateviewer.com/chemtrails, and you can read all the references for all this stuff. And then my other website is weathermodificationhistory.com, and on there I got like a timeline and a map of all this stuff. And you can go through here and I don't know if y'all can see this, but you can go on here, hit artificial clouds, and come through and see the entire history of chemtrails, all the way back to the 50s.
Now there was I think we talked about this the other 2 shows ago, is that you don't see chemtrails in non-NATO countries.
Yeah, right. So that's interesting that you say that, because I actually wrote a paper called Chemtrails and the NATO Single Fuel Concept. The reason why there's a chemtrail problem today is because in 1988, all the NATO countries switched to diesel fuel in their jets. They had been burning gas up to that point. And it's something called the NATO Single Fuel Concept, or one fuel for the battlefield. And what they wanted to do was use the same fuel in the jets that they did in the tanks. So in 1988, they started this process of trying to find a fuel that would work in both. And by 1996, they had decided it was JP8, and they put it in the jets and in the tanks. It destroyed fuel filters. It made black farts come out of the jets. Well, I'll leave the personal stuff out of it, but I had a guy in the Air Force who's a 30-year veteran confirm this stuff for me. I was like, did you guys, when y'all switched to, when you did the diesel thing, he was like, yeah, it fucked everything up. And interestingly enough, the first time the word chemtrails was ever used on the internet was 1997, the year they finished the NATO Single Fuel Concept switchover. So in 1996, every single NATO country started burning diesel fuel in their jets. And the difference between the gas and the diesel fuel is the JP5 that they were burning before had like 3,000 parts per billion of aluminum. The JP8, 9,500. 3 times the aluminum. So suddenly, atmospheric aluminum coming out of NATO planes tripled. Is that a coincidence? I don't know. But regardless, that's the way it works. So
now,
time.
What would the atmosphere? Because eventually it's going to come down to to Earth. Now, what kind of effects would you think that would have on soil, farmers, people growing, getting into the water supply, stuff like that?
Alzheimer's, Monsanto making aluminum resistant seeds, all that shit you've heard. You've heard all this stuff, right?
Not the Monsanto's making aluminum resistant seeds. I haven't heard that.
Yeah, I mean, that's just, but the aluminum resistant seed is because basically, and this is the thing I like to tell people aluminum, because I don't like to bullshit people. I think there's too many hucksters on the internet already. If you're going to talk about aluminum in the air, you got to consider all the sources. And one of the largest sources of aluminum in the air is the desert. So Sahara Desert puts most of the aluminum in the air worldwide, because crustal aluminum is dirt. If you're on a dirt road, you're breathing aluminum. I mean, if you're behind a truck that's in front of you on a dirt road, you have breathed aluminum chemtrails.
Gotcha.
So there's that, then there's rockets. They said that whenever the space shuttle would take off, it would dump 304 tons of aluminum oxide. That's 304 times 2,000. Yeah. 608,000 pounds of freaking aluminum for one launch. Now, no plane has ever done that ever in the whole time it ever flew. So I like to point that out to people, you know what I mean? But we don't know how much is coming out of planes is the true answer. Even the IPCC says we guess, and we guessed back in 1975. We haven't updated this section. I don't know why. So nobody knows. That's the truth of the matter. Nobody knows how much is coming out of it. When I went to the EPA and had that hearing, I told them, I said, it's time for you guys to do testing. At the very least, you have no reason you haven't tested. I mean, you got no excuse whatsoever. Everybody's pissed about y'all making clouds and shitting all over the sky. Test it. So that's it. I'll shut up about chemtrails unless you got a question.
There are some patents. They're under stratospheric atmospheric injection, and I don't know what year those came out, but that's where the patents at least are hidden. For some of the stuff.
Yeah, I got a full list of patents. It's at weathermodificationhistory.com. I first put this out when I was still in a 9, and I was at resonated.com. It's like 2011. And this has been on every single freaking website on the internet. But if you just click on patents, it's right there in the center of the page. And my patent list goes from 1891 to 2003. And then I got I guess I ran out of munchies or something and I quit doing it. You know what I mean? I was like, I got to finish doing 2004 to present. And I've got so many projects I'm working on. I haven't finished it. But yeah, you can see all of the patents that I've found from there, method for aerodynamic particle sprays and, just all kinds of crazy, method of modifying the weather, satellite for modifying the weather, stuff like that. It's absolutely insane.
Well, that other thing you said about them wanting to get rid of the clouds at night, it shows you they want extra cooling. They're actively cooling the planet with the effort.
Yeah, so I mean, it debunks all the debunkers out there that say that it's not a thing. They say it's not a thing because it's happened for so long. And like, this is the part where everybody splits hairs online. They're like, well, when was it a thing? And I'm like, I'm not exactly sure when it became a thing, like when they actually grabbed the reins and grabbed the steering wheel, you know what I mean? You get what I mean by that? Like, yes, planes have made clouds since the 50s, but when were they actually going, we want clouds here? Yeah, that's like the $1 million question. So I made a website called weathermodificationhistory.com so we could go through newspapers and old clippings. And I work with this other dude, and he's going through like Google News right now. And he's taking the freaking newspapers from there and photoshopping them back into these beautiful images. And we're like, bringing this. And I swear to God, this is what one of them said. There's a congressman standing on top of a ski resort in the 70s, and he says, there will always be ski on this mountain, and the airlines will provide it. And there's like a photo.
No shit.
So, I mean, dude, this is the most priceless trolling I've ever done in my life. Like all of these guys who modify the weather, I get off on like that's why I came out. I mean, honestly, like I was in a 9, like many of you. And I realized that in order for me to do activism and really change this world, I was going to have to actually walk in a physical building, and show my ID to walk into the EPA building. So I, pretty much self-doxed and, I've been doing this thing ever since. But, weather control is a huge topic. And there's so many people who only know like 10% of it, and they have a whole YouTube channel with 150,000 subscribers and they don't know their head from their ass. So I made this website to just put the facts, you know what I mean? It's like, you can see who paid for I got the programs right there. You can see the government reports from NOAA, who modified the weather, when, where, who paid for it, and what did they spray. And it's been on my website for 5 years on climateviewer.com. I just put it up on here to make like a single page, you know what I mean? Like a brochure. Hey, send this to your congressman. It's everything about weather control on one damn page, including a 3D globe of all the cloud seeding projects and every ionospheric heater on the planet like HAARP, all that shit. And I just put it in one place with a timeline. And we're just trying to like change the narrative because like when I hear most people say chemtrail, it's like the butt of a joke. And the people who talk about it are the butt of a joke. But it's kind of time for everybody to up their game and, you know what I mean? Like, get up with the terminology and shit.
Well, I don't want to like put people down, but honestly, it's hard to have a conversation anymore because you can't talk about anything complex when the people don't understand the subjects and the nuances that you're talking about. It really is a problem. You can't have you can't have an intelligent conversation, basically, if it's not some political soundbite type argument, on the street, nobody gets it. And that's really unfortunate. That's why all this stuff slips by. That's why these people get away with what they do in the law and everything else.
Well, nobody has an attention span anymore.
Yeah, tell me about it.
I mean, just operator knows it. With the metrics, you just look at your time on site and you just punch yourself in the eye.
Now, didn't the CFR like a couple of years ago admit that they were doing something, or they were talking? There's some guy who spoke.
You're talking about geoengineering?
Yeah, I think somebody.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, the Council on Foreign Relations had a thing called unilateral geoengineering, and they were basically talking about what if one country were to decide to go it alone and geoengineer the whole planet, what would be the ramifications of that? Now, chemtrails is different than geoengineering. And most people don't understand this. Like, geoengineering would happen at a higher altitude, for one. It's supposed to block sun. For two, do planes and making clouds do that? Yes. But they only do it for the stuff they're putting up there lasts in the air maybe 2 weeks. For geoengineering, they're talking about putting chemicals up so high that they stay in the air for 1 to 2 years.
No shit.
Yeah. So these proposals are basically doing what chemtrails are doing now, but higher for longer, and it'll kill people.
Yeah, I was going to say.
They admit it in the public.
I was going to say that not only that, this could do, since it's high up there, it could do some damage to possibly the ionosphere, right?
Ionosphere, no, that's HAARP. They do that with sounding rockets and barium clouds, and I can tell you about that, but that's a totally different thing. I'm making a documentary film right now just to separate all this shit into the right boxes so people can understand it. But yeah, like the geoengineering thing, they want to spray either sulfuric acid, titanium oxide, aluminum oxide, diamond dust, or calcium. 50,000 feet to maybe 90,000 feet in the air for up to a year straight. And then once it's up there, it will stay in the air for a year or two till, it finally all rains out. Problem with that, you're going to breathe it. You're going to wear it. It's going to be all over everything. And it probably will melt everything in the damn ocean. Worst case scenario, not even worst case scenario, best case scenario. Best case scenario, people will die.
Well, I was going to say, yeah, even diluted, sulfuric acid is
They call that acid rain, bro. I mean, we used to talk about that.
Yeah, I was going to say, even if it's diluted, so much, you still get, the effects of it. Plants die. It starts to eat away and peel paint.
Well, let's give everybody playing along at home some acronyms and shit. If you go to the Independent Assessment of Geoengineering Proposals, IAGP, there's this dude named Ben Kravitz and Alan Robach. They're these two scientist dudes who said that if they were to do these geoengineering proposals, which seek to mimic what volcanoes do naturally, that it will dry up the southern hemisphere just like volcanoes do naturally. So if they spray this stuff and they get away with doing this and legalizing it and start the spray program, which David Keith is testing next year in Arizona, if they get away with doing this legally, and this is coming real soon, so people better get their homework done. If they get away with doing this, people will die all over the southern hemisphere. And even on Ken Caldera, who's one of the top geoengineers, Ken Caldera, David Keith, they basically give Bill Gates' money to people who grovel and say, I want to study geoengineering. And Bill Gates has a fund called FISER. And he basically made David Keith and Ken Caldera the heads of this fund. So basically all these scientist jerk-offs wanting, grant money have to go, well, I came up with a really cool way to use HAARP and 2 other radars to cross the beams and shoot methane in the air, and it'll compress the methane into diamonds, and the diamonds will be diamond dust. And Lucy, and we're going to call it Project Lucy, and it's Lucy in the sky with diamonds. Boom.
It's funny. I swear to God, it's funny. It's funny you even mentioned Bill Gates because he's a known member of God, what are they? Not the Club of Rome. Club of Rome, right?
Yeah.
Yep.
The
globalist agenda.
Yeah, all of these guys, who say there's too many people on the planet. But anyway, it's coincidental that a guy who, is rubbing shoulders with people who say there's too many people on the planet has said, hey, we can save the planet from global warming by spraying chemicals all over the planet. And even though they did a study and said it's going to kill a shitload of people and they got to figure out how to pay the losers, they're still doing a test next year in Arizona. So these guys are psychopathic. And David Keith is the guy, he's from, I think, University of Calgary or something like that. Anyway, he's got a company called Carbon Engineering, if anybody wants to holler at your boy. he is supposed to be down in Arizona next year to test something called the Strato Cruiser. I got an article and video about it on my YouTube, Jim Lee Climate Viewer. And he's supposed to be down there to test Bill Gates' design. Now, Bill Gates hangs out with this dude called Nathan Myhrvold. He's called the patent troll. Have you ever heard of him?
No.
The world's largest patent troll. You gotta look this guy up, Nathan Myhrvold. Anyway, Nathan Myhrvold and Bill Gates have a company called Intellectual Ventures, and they came out with a hose to the sky that they called Strato Shield. And now David Keith, who's Bill Gates' lackey, is going to Arizona to test the Strato Cruiser. And Bill Gates and Nathan Myhrvold and David Keith all have patents on this technology. So, of course, if the test goes well, guess who's going to make a shitload of money killing people all over the planet?
They are.
Surprise, surprise. I'm definitely going to take a little break.
Well, yeah, they know that, putting in a little seed money, it will get the government going. They get, a bigger government R&D grant to help them along. But then all the technology and patents they get off of anything that's created will be more than what they've put in. I mean, they know they're going to make money off this.
Yeah, well, I think it's more nefarious than that, because at the end of the day, all weather modification technology is used to make weapons. Period, point blank. Weather warfare is worse than nuclear bombs ever wish they could be, because you can see a nuke go off. You cannot tell when somebody steered a tornado over your house. Period.
Yeah.
And it's the ultimate weapon of doom. It's since the 1900s they've dreamed of doing this stuff. So they're really getting to a point now where they can. Department of Homeland Security had a hurricane modification workshop in 2008 and brought a whole bunch of geoengineering scientists up there. And Mosh Alamaro from MIT was like, we could steer hurricanes with carbon black. And, people were like, we can spread jelly all over the ocean, and that's hurricane emasculation. Basically shut off the water going into a hurricane. They're going to spray jelly. Basically, they're going to make a BP oil spill to stop a hurricane from being big.
That's the point.
Yeah, so this is the kind of stuff that's going on today. And that's the government involved in it. So the Department of Homeland Security wants to steer hurricanes because they want to prevent another Katrina. So at the very least, you got to look at yourself and go, there has been a 10-year drought where no hurricane has made landfall. No major category whatever hurricane has touched the U.S. since them sons of bitches at Homeland Security said they did not want them to come here again. That is a coincidence from hell. And nobody knows it. So I'm like scratching my head over here going, when are people going to wake up to this? And I don't know, man. It gets crazier every year. Lasers steering lightning bolts, lasers making rain, cloud ionizers, like making radio frequency, blah, blah, blah. Cloud ionizers in the UAE on drones right now. Electric clouds. It gets crazier every freaking year. And now they're bragging about it in public. And they're going to go global with this geoengineering thing if people don't stop it.
I'm almost thinking there's some counter programs going on. Remember Loki sent that thing from Idaho Power where they've been cloud seeding for trying to get more snow for a number of years, that drought they had out west. But like this year, so then you do get more rain, yet they're still cloud seeding. And what do they get? This huge explosion of snow and, caving roofs in and so forth. So it's like you have them doing a counter program to the drought program that the big guys are putting on. Idaho wants to get a little rain. It's getting funny, man.
Yeah, I got a map. It's at climateviewer.org, and you can click on weather control on the sidebar. And then I've actually got a map of the Idaho Power's cloud seeding generators, like where they are on the ground.
Oh, really?
Who paid for? Yeah, like in their flight pass. It's up on screen right now. Check this shit out. So here's the Idaho cloud seeding generators that are owned by Idaho Power is here, and there's their flight pass, and you can see this is Boise, and then over here along the mountains and everything. I could turn it on 3D and show you the mountains and shit. I won't bore you, but regardless, that's the whole damn state of Idaho covered in cloud seeding generators. And if you start going down the list, I was like, well, how many of them are there around here? And I just started going around and putting them together, and you quickly realize that the entire West Coast is covered in these damn things.
Huh.
And that's what you end up with right there. So look, that's the cloud seeding generators on the West Coast that I've found so far. And they are on every single year from October to March. All day long, all night long. So when we're getting floods and we're getting ice storms and hail the size of basketballs and shit, it's because all these guys over here are paying for water, artificial snow on top of mountains. And they've got guys burning propane and silver iodide on the west side of the mountain. And when the wind comes across, it picks that plume of metal up and then tries to make artificial snow. They call that snowpack augmentation. And what I did was I got all of the government reports from NOAA and I put them into a fusion table. Y'all ever use fusion tables?
No.
So I put them into a fusion table. It's like a spreadsheet online. And the cool thing about the spreadsheet is it automatically generates a map. So then here's all of the government reports from 2004 to 2012 of by category. Hail mitigation is the little snow, and then rain is precipitation enhancement, and then the ones that look like mountains are ground-based cloud seeding operations. So this is weather modification in America every single year. I know who pays for it. You come over here to the Rose thing, and it's like Delta Airlines paid Barkin International to get rid of fog on Salt Lake City International Airport in 2004. I can read the government reports, see where they happen, and a friend of mine, George Stiller, helped me map all this out. But like if you live in California, it says right here, Pacific Gas and Electric Company paid Pacific Gas and Electric Company to do the weather modification. Your power company actually owns the generators that are what modifying the weather. And if everybody knew that, I mean, like there's so many people like nerding out online going, how can we stop the weather modification and the geo? It starts by you knowing who the hell's doing it. And I mean, when we know who's doing it, why they're doing it right now, that Lake Oroville Dam thing, have you guys seen that?
No.
Oh, yeah.
The one that's leaking and stuff. That's Sacramento Municipal Utility District, and they modified their own weather. So in Sacramento, where the dam is failing, the Sacramento Municipal Utility District, the water company, modified the weather that filled the dam that may break and kill people.
That they failed to maintain the spillway on.
No, I mean, is it just a coincidence? I mean, are they psychopaths and love fucking killing people? I don't know, man. But when you look at the data and you see that a water company is modifying the weather in Sacramento, and there's a dam that's overflowing and about to break and could kill people, you have to look at history and go, has this happened before? And there was this dude back in 1915 called Hatfield, and he basically was paid by the city of San Diego to make it rain. He was an Indian. Well, they made a contract. They said, we'll pay you $10,000 to make it rain in San Diego. And this dude comes along. He's like, all right, I can do it. He sets up these towers all over the place. He starts burning chemicals, and it rains like an MFer. And it filled the Lake Morita Dam. It broke and did like $3.1 million worth of damage. So there's a cool jam band called Widespread Panic that I love, and they have a song about him called Hatfield. Anyway, so into the story, he goes back to the government. He's like, well, I made it rain. And they're like, well, we'll pay you, but you've got to take responsibility for what you did. You know what I mean? So Hatfield he's an Indian dude. And in the song, they basically go, well, the Indians, they don't like us much. He did a rain dance. He did a rain dance with some chemicals in a vat and killed a whole bunch of white folk and did $3 million worth of damage, and they wouldn't pay him because of legal liability. So the thing is that, and I'm going to make a moral story and shut up. The legal liability is the problem today. When people are still modifying the weather every single day, only thing anybody talks about online is chemtrails. That's it. Why do you think that is? Because nobody wants to know the truth. Nobody wants to actually deal with the problem. And the people who do, they can't find my shit because of censorship. And that's what you wanted to talk about tonight, so I'll shut up.
Yeah. That
oh,
was
you know who? Well, one last thing. You know who did do that thing with the? I think it was at the CFR. Was Brennan? Wasn't he like the CIA or NSA chief? But he went and did a speech at the CFR telling him how essentially how the here's the geoengineering program. Here's what we're doing, guys. Like hey, no shit. You know?
Well, the backstory on that is that the CIA actually had a climate change office, which is really creepy, and they just closed it down. Little history on CIA. Back in 1976, when we were doing Operation Popeye and we were doing weather warfare over Vietnam, the U.S. Air Force was making rain over Vietnam to make the Ho Chi Minh Trail muddy so that the Viet Cong couldn't move. Like they get stuck in the mud. Everybody seen the videos of Vietnam mud. The slogan was "Make mud, not war." Anyway, they took 3 planes and they modified the weather for like 5 years. Top secret. Nobody knew about it. The government found out. There was an international law written, UN treaty called NMOD, bans weather warfare to this day. It was signed 1978. Nobody knows this stuff. Same time, and this is not mentioned in NMOD, the CIA had a program called Nile Blue, and they were doing cloud seeding not to make it rain, but to stop rain. And it was called a rain embargo. And what the CIA was doing was they were modifying the weather that was headed to Cuba to stop the rain from going to Cuba to kill their sugar crops. So if the CIA was modifying the weather back in 1976 and Director Brennan is talking about geoengineering today, and everybody's seeing white unmarked planes that don't show up on fucking air trackers, you do the math.
Yeah, it's almost like because you're seeing, it looks like the flights go out, West Coast, you see these storms coming in and all that chemtrailing out there, looks like it dries out all that water, and then you have these, designed droughts, at least up until this, for like, 10 years? I mean,
The scientific term for that is overseeding, and it comes from a study called CalWater 2015. It's actually been used many times before that, but just something to give you something specific to California and the drought in California. There's a study called CalWater 2015, and in it they talk about how pollution sources, they don't say fucking chemtrails, pollution sources are overseeding the sky. So basically there's too many aerosols in the sky for enough water to attach to it to get big enough to fall. That makes sense?
Oh, yeah.
Yep.
So what happens is right now all the flights in America are controlled by this supercomputer Skynet called NextGen, NEXTGEN. And the supercomputer puts highways in the sky. And in California, there's like 3 main highways in the sky. That's why the planes always look like coming in the same spot, and they're making grids because they're on a computer-controlled grid that tells them where the hell to go.
It's true.
So, it's true, whether you like it or not. And so the supercomputer NextGen has this thing called the Aviation Environmental Design Toolkit built into it. Environmental design. Well, do I have to explain what that thing does? Anyway, it tells them when to burn the fuel, at what altitude, head this way into the wind, follow these waypoints, and you'll save $1.50 on your miles per gallon. And that's really the way it figures it out. So they're accounting for whether they'll make clouds or whatever, but up and down California, they're overseeding because that water's just coming in, and it hasn't had enough time for aerosols to attach to it so that it can fall. So California naturally should have rain when you get a atmospheric river coming through and stuff like that. They haven't been coming lately.
Well, I used to live in Southern California, and I remember back in the 90s, it used to rain in the spring and in the winter, but after, I think it was 2000 and something, there was just a period where it's almost none.
Yeah.
Well, one other thing before I forget, remember those days around 9/11? There was like 4 or 5 days where all the jets were out of the sky. there's been a few people that have made some good correlations to, so there was no chemtrailing, no smoking going on, and there were temperature relationships that were different
That's
than
right.
all the other days where they
Yep.
are setting everything up.
It was a guy called Patrick Menace, and it was the 9/11 grounding study. And basically, they call it the diurnal temperature range. What it basically means is on that day, normally if it were 60 degrees let's say it was 70 degrees during the day and 50 at night. On this day, it got a little hotter and much colder. So it got 80 degrees and it got down to like 40 degrees. And the range got bigger. The thing that they realized was that because there were no clouds that day, that at night it cooled even cooler because outgoing radiation could get back into space. There wasn't nothing to stop it. That's why the damn FAA doctor is saying this thing about, we've got to make no clouds at night. Because if they have cloudy nights, they're trapping heat.
Yeah.
So that's why I noticed, like, over the last year, and maybe it's just me pinch myself, but I swear to God this has happened. In South Carolina, we always have rainy nights. You know what I mean? Like, it would come the end of the night, the sun's going down. That's when the clouds would roll in and it'd start raining during the night. And now, I mean, it's been a year almost that I notice it. It'll be cloudy all freaking day long. And the minute the night starts to roll around, all the clouds are gone and I'm seeing stars all night long. And I'm going, is it always been this way? Or am I fucking remembering it wrong? I don't know.
Well, I seem to see, I'm kind of the center of the country, and, you see some chemtrailing, not much, honestly, but when I have made trips out to the West Coast here last few years, boy, all of a sudden you just start seeing it on the horizon, man. I mean, it's fucking obvious, and it's just like, whoa. And then you get under it, you get into like, Arizona or so, New Mexico, Arizona, and all of a sudden you start getting under it. And, yeah, it's just obvious that the way the jet trails look.
It's a crazy fun topic, man. I talk about weather control a lot because, I was a Boy Scout and it's just interesting. You know what I mean? Like you wake up one day and you go, wait a minute, people are screwing with the weather? Well, I remember everything I read. Let's get started. I don't know. The more I read, the more I go, we got to put a stop to this. And that's why I do like, the maptivism stuff and writing articles, bitching on the internet, man. Somebody's got to make a difference, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. No, man, you got a ton of data there. It's incredible. It does fit into a political scheme, though, because you think about it as like, if the world was, let's say I think they're doing this to, obviously to cool things just enough to keep it all even. That way, this whole political argument of climate change or the climate warming and the runaway environment and all that, it just takes that argument right out. That's personally why I see some of that's going on. But
okay,
yeah, I can't prove that, but it just seems like an angle that you would take if you see the politics going the wrong way on that one, especially they're trying to politicize the weather now. Then you're having this weather warfare game going on. Different techniques, different things going on, different areas. But
I say quit talking about climate change and talk about the climate changers. Because there's people changing the climate every single day, and I mean they got names and addresses. We know who pays for it. We know why they say they do it. I don't understand what people are waiting for. I mean, if you don't like this stuff, we could stop it tomorrow. It's just, people's got to freaking resonate this stuff.
No, when you're speaking of climate change, you're talking about everyday people driving cars, producing, a carbon footprint, stuff like that.
Yeah, but that's all bullshit. CO2-based carbon-based climate change is absolute utter hogwash bullshit, and I can debunk it in 5 seconds.
Gotcha.
What affects the climate on our planet is the sun, galactic cosmic rays, clouds, water vapor, and then fucking greenhouse gases. And until nobody's ever disproven this. There's a guy named Svensmark. He's got the Cloud Mystery. He's finally come out and validated most of this stuff. Jasper Kirkby from CERN, he's got a thing called Cloud, cosmics leaving aerosol droplets, where he did a GCR test in a tube and everything. But regardless, nobody understands cloud physics to this day. It's not accounted for properly in any IPCC model or geoengineering model. They say that dust ice effects of the ECHAM 5 is, I won't get too technical. Regardless, cloud aerosol interaction is the greatest unknown in climate science. Write it down, underline it. They don't know shit about it. So that's why the chemtrail thing's a problem. They've been making clouds for 60 years. They have no idea exactly how it works. It's the truth. And even the doctor I talked to when I interviewed him, he was, this is hilarious. He goes, well, we were testing those biofuels to try to control the clouds. He says, and I said, well, how did the results go? And he's like, we went from a very poor understanding to poor with an exclamation point. I mean, and they're totally giddy about making that little bit of progress. But the bottom line is, they don't fully understand it. Nobody ever will, probably. I mean, not for a long time. And they're making clouds on a daily basis. Now they want to try to take advantage of it because basically the carbon cabal has come calling for the airline industry. And they put out so much CO2. I went to a hearing, and the EPA hearing was about CO2 and greenhouse gases. I went there and said, why the fuck are y'all talking about the Clean Air Act and greenhouse gases?
Well,
and I'm saying everybody's bitching a lot about clouds.
If there's more CO2 in the atmosphere, it would actually be better for the trees.
Yeah, it's plant food, dude.
Yeah.
I mean, if you think about it, all right, so this all comes from a place called the Clathrate gun hypothesis. And it goes like this. It's methane doom, all right? There are popular chemtrail, chemtard websites that preach that methane is going to kill everybody on the planet. I will not name this person. Regardless, this Clathrate gun hypothesis says dinosaur farts melted methane ice chunks in the ocean, and that when the methane ice chunks were released, there was runaway global warming, and that killed the dinosaurs. You cannot make this shit up. This is where this all comes from. So they went up to the North Pole and they dug a hole in the ice. And when they did the ice column, they said, ooh, look, there's a lot of CO2 right here. Then there's a lot of methane. Then there's a lot of death. Oh my God, we're in deep shit. And then, they started preaching that, that's happening today. Well, methane hydrates are blowing up all over the place. What they don't tell you is this. This is the freaking lie of the century. When they're talking about methane in the atmosphere, it doesn't come from clathrates. Clathrate is an ice thing. You go Google it. But anyway, none of this is coming from the the methane clathrates like they're saying. It's coming from drilling. They call it fugitive emissions. Even worse. The BP oil spill?
Yeah.
Remember that, the BP blowout? You know why it blew out? They drilled into a fucking methane hydrate.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Those things kind of explode when you touch a liquid ice crystal methane chunk with a drill bit.
Yeah.
High temperature. And it blew up. Yeah. So that's what happens most of the time. It's not being released because of global warming and CO2. It's being released because dumbasses keep drilling into it. And every single fracking well on the planet releases anywhere from 5 to 30% of its volume into the air. Those are called fugitive emissions. So if you're pumping 20 billion gallons of it out and up to 30% of it could end up in the air, and on my map at climateviewer.org, I've got like 1.2 million fracking wells across America. You do the math, dude. It's not like they say. They want to blame you and say, the UN, the global climate cabal, people in Oregon cannot burn wood. That's like a fundamental human fucking right to be able to keep yourself warm in the winter without having to pay the man.
Yep.
And they're taking it away because of CO2. So if that ain't a red flag to everybody, I don't know, bro. And then the worst part is they are proposing this geoengineering stuff as the solution for the stopgap band-aid. We'll just spray chemicals all over the whole fucking planet, block out the sun, so that we can stop the planet from heating up because of CO2. I don't know what else to say about it, dude.
All I know is paying a climate indulgence to Al Gore is not going to fix the planet. That much I know.
Sure
Al Gore's in with that globalist agenda shit. Come on, man.
Yeah, what's the
Hey,
I think
you
that
two, I gotta bounce, man. I said I was gonna code, and I've run my fucking mouse so much I have not coded at all. And I've got like, if I don't code, I'm gonna freaking regret it. So, I'll have to come back next time and actually shut the fuck up.
Gotcha.
Appreciate it, man. Thank you for
all right,
having
Jim.
me, guys.
Thanks.
It's good talking with you.
All right.
Wow. Well, that was good.
Yep. Trying to see where all of our guests was. Now it's the Tyler and Preston joke. Yeah, I was going to have some other guests on here. We were going to talk about censorship on Facebook.
Oh, yeah. Sheesh. I mean, it's like everybody's complaining about it. I mean, it's not just Yanons, and
well, it's
it's like every group has some issue with this going on.
Well, it's come to a point, where I can't even keep some anons on Facebook. Even with floozy accounts, it's almost come to the point where, and they seem to hit activists, even the hardest, where I can't even, I don't know. I've tried everything with few of them. I was looking a little into it. They're tracking you more than just, your IP, your MAC address, stuff like that, cookies. It's almost as though they've red flagged certain accounts, or they've got your search pattern behavior in a database, and they know who exactly they're looking at as soon as they create an account, and they get disabled as soon as they're on.
Right. Yeah, they figured out that much of it. Yeah, it's just getting to the point where you're going to have to come up with your own system. I mean, Facebook as the platform is pretty much coming to an end.
Well,
that's what you're describing. Is you can't be on it anymore, so you have to go somewhere else. I guess if you can. I mean, you stay on it if you can, but anybody that's. But the thing is, it's like, okay, then you say, oh well, you'll have your own website or you'll do your own thing somewhere else. Well, yeah, but these people, same thing. They have their websites. Then their web traffic drops, or they throw other tricks on you, or something coming through the ISPs. Then you have the same problems there. So it's like, where do you go? They're shutting the internet down.
Let me see. Let me look at Facebook stock. Hold on. I think it dropped, dude. Nope. Went up today.
Well, no, because as long as they can figure out, like BOA did, that they can have people scrolling through the internet, turning people in, and make money off it, that's what's going to happen. I mean,
well, I mean, as an activist, or even as a non, it is a good place to put out the information, but any anon, any activist knows that you start pumping out political stuff and information out there, don't be surprised that if you have an old account that's been around since day one of Facebook, that it might be gone. And here, let me read the original mission statement from Facebook. Hold on, this is going to trip you out. There we go. Seems simple. Facebook's mission is to give people the power to share and make the world more open and connected. Now, has the Facebook team and Mark Zuckerberg gone away from that? Yes, they have. And
sure.
And it's starting December 2015 or December 2016 with their whole fake news initiative. And now they're even going even further, where they're hiring more people to go after fake news on for the upcoming British election. I heard they were hiring these people to censor violent videos and stuff like that. And you and I will know that if you were concerned about people seeing violent videos on Facebook that were gore-ish or whatever, then you can always put in some internal setting that they have to be 18 plus to see a video, or some sort of verification. Something very easy that you can do. But this, as the story prolongs, it's more leading towards to sway an election in favor of somebody else. And what better way to do it than Facebook, where a lot of people get their news, information about the world through Facebook. In fact, if Mark Zuckerberg had his way, he would want you to only view the internet through Facebook. And he's gone out of his way to even do that. You notice if you look at links through Facebook, through the Facebook app, where does it link to? By default, through Facebook. I don't know what kind of day and age we live in, where if you want to stay on a social network website, you have to post your ID, pictures of yourself, verify who you are, and they say it's all because of they're trying to protect something, or fake accounts and people hacking other people's stuff. But the way they're going about it is just a big turnoff to the end consumer, to the end result. I think that I've actually read reports that Facebook's growth is actually stunted.
Yeah, you're getting to that point. People finally see it for what it is.
Yeah.
Well, that's typical of what you see. So along all these lines, with any government law or program, it always starts out well. It doesn't always start out good, but the good days are right at the beginning. There's always plenty of money, and everything's bright and rosy. And then as the years go on, it gets chiseled back. It gets bloated, inefficient. Things change, the laws change, and then by the end of it, you don't even want it anymore. And that's what he's done with Facebook. Is the same thing. It's the idea was to get everybody talking and be social, but what did he turn it into? A Chinese censored version. Now Big Brother's on your ass if you don't show your papers. It just becomes more of the same. It didn't take very long either.
Nope, it really didn't. And I meet anons on different platforms. If your listeners are out there, they're on different platforms. I've run into a few of them, on messenger programs. There's a lot of anons on Kick. Some really good hackers on there, to be honest with you. But Facebook is not always, if you're an anon, you start posting stuff, and you got an account, just be on guard that you could lose your account at any time. And it's gotten to the point where they're making it more difficult to get back on, after you've lost it.
Right.
Hell, we have two people in our show. We have two people in our show chat that we can't even keep online.
That's not funny to them, but I mean, you could see this day coming. I wouldn't say they shouldn't have been prepared, but I mean, it's finally hit to where it's just obvious, and it's like, okay, hey, that's it for Facebook, right? I mean,
Well, come on, guys. To our listeners, MySpace was actually kind of really fucking cool back in the day. There wasn't much censorship, as far as I remember. I was high and drunk the whole time, but I really don't remember that. In fact, I remember we got away with a lot of shit that you probably wouldn't get probably wouldn't have gotten away with on Facebook, though. But go ahead.
If you had if Mark Zuckerberg was doing it for some egalitarian reason, but it's not. He's just playing politics. It's all about censorship. I mean, when he flies to China to talk about adopting Chinese style censorship. I mean, that tells you where he's going. You know, it's just, it's in the news, it's in your face, and the next thing you see is the clampdown. And yeah, he sold out. You know, he made a great buck. He stole the software, built the whole thing. You know, so the scam, and this is like final ending of the scam. You know, it's like, yep, cash it all out and screw it up, sell it off to the government, sell the data to the government. Good job.
Well, Facebook, what they'll do is they'll, I was reading up on this today. They claim that they get 20,000 requests every 6 months from the police. And what they'll do is when they get a request from the police, they'll actually shut down a person's Facebook account. But a lot of these videos are coming out of officer-involved shootings. And what they'll do is they'll shut down their accounts in attempts to get the videos from going viral.
Yeah, they're going to protect. That's the whole. After there was a few of these, what was it like? Well, there was a few. Well, one of them was like a improper police shooting that was Facebook Live, and there was another that was kind of one very murder Facebook Live. So it's like, okay, you kind of see that one, but at the same time, it's like, hey, if there is an improper police activity going on, you shut off the feed. If that's your purpose, then you're not on the right side. But that's why they're doing it. It's to censor that kind of activity getting out there. They don't like that going on. So one more thing, they just take it away from me. Well, we're gonna have 3,000 guys and just check all these streams out and turn you off if we have to.
Yeah, so
nothing personal. I mean, it might have been evidence in court, Tyler, but that's okay.
Well, how many? Being a nun, I don't know how many pages I've lost. With no, they say I violated Facebook's terms of whatever, and I get, and then have to appeal it to get a page back. We labeled everything properly, we did everything right. I don't know. Almost as their terms of their what is allowed and what isn't very clear or written in stone. Like remember that one video that we had on this show, and we know for sure it was fucking censored. Remember that? They deleted the wrong video. I remember I was talking about it in the back end.
Oh yeah, I don't remember exactly what
it was. Like one of the earlier episodes, and I showed a video, and I got a really weird warning that WSMB something clip was used, and they didn't delete the actual video that was on. They deleted the other video.
Because I think it's in Sony Music or.
Well, not only that. I mean, it's gotten to the point where it's very silly. Even with sharing. Audio clips and stuff like that. I know back end they're using something similar to that's doing live time audio sampling and video sampling, where they're it's kind of like a similar program to Shazam. So after the sampling, they run it past a database, and usually they'll give you the option to if you own the rights to it, yes and no. But they got even further than that. If they determine that you are, I think it's a bot. If they determine that it's going on longer than it should, they just shut down the feed automatically. It's not fun anymore. Even you think it's bad here, you should go on YouTube, upload a video with like some major some popular music. It's like it's gotten to the point where it's like, how much longer will the people take before they move on to the next platform?
Well, you're seeing it. If you say if they're not growing, you're there. He's finally squeezed it down to where nobody. Well, yeah, nobody won't be there, but they're not going to use it as any kind of platform to push anything. They're just going to move on, and I mean, you won't see the collapse immediately, but yeah, I mean, people are figuring it out.
Well, we could always move back to Facebook, and I was surprised when I, how easy it was to get onto, when Blue Whale, when we're talking about I got an account, I was surprised how many people were actually on it. VK, the Russian Facebook.
Oh, really? Huh.
Yeah. I mean, it doesn't really have all the cool plugins that you would see on, as far as I'm seeing. You can post, you can put photos, you can put your location. I don't see any video plugins, but that's only a matter of time, And as we know, because we've been hacked, that our even video streams can be hacked on Facebook.
That's correct.
We know that all too damn well.
Well, there's nothing everybody's really going to. I mean, I'm not really socially active, any other social networks, but I mean, usually there's 2 or 3 other choices.
Well, I do see one that might come up, and a lot of Anons are on it. It's minds.com. And, I would recommend anybody to check it out. Just keep in mind that they are on the Amazon server, and that's always something to look out for, if you don't want your data going into some database in the NSA. I mean, it already is. But, mine seems to be another one. Right now they're selling, they're turning into an IPO. You can get a share of minds.com for about $100. Essentially, if you are buying into an IPO, you are feeding the man, you are feeding the system that's fucking you over. But it would be another place to go out. But I mean, personally, if I had it my way, I would just go back to MySpace. I remember we had this is way back in the day. There were links to just underground chat forums that you wouldn't see on Facebook, and a lot of them were related to before the Silk Road. There were things out there where you could get your fix online through the mail. So that was going on MySpace towards the end.
Oh wow!
Yeah, you would have never seen it. Yeah, I was gonna say, I was a little part of that ring for a little bit. You never see any of that shit going on Facebook. But even Twitter is starting to become like you don't hear about it as often, because Twitter. But there are a lot of people, on Twitter. But even Twitter, there's censorship,
Yeah. I think they censored a few, even of Trump's tweets. There's 1 or 2 that have gotten censored over time that they've caught. God, what was that about? That was fairly recent too. So yeah, it's if you go corporate. Well, here's the thing, right? I mean, evidently, if you're at a certain level, if you go corporate, and if you're a certain enough level, enough people on board your platform, you have to sign up with Big Brother to turn over all the data you've got.
Pretty much.
Whether you're an ISP or friggin' Facebook or a bank, it's like anybody, any organization, of course, the infiltrators, or whatever other ways they have of getting to you. Yeah, they just want you to turn everything over. It's just, it's what it is. This is like a stop and frisk routine or a show your papers at the bus station type thing. It's finally gotten that way on Facebook. It's like, you don't do shit on Facebook unless you show your papers and keep your nose clean. That's it.
I remember I once lost an account in 5 minutes after a post. I had some really sensitive. All I can tell the viewers is I had some really sensitive information. I wasn't smart about it, and I'm surprised there was no legal consequences. I put it all out there, and I lost the account in 5 minutes. Which means that I don't think it was actually reported. I think it was. I think they were monitoring. Somebody actually dug through it.
Some other keyword popped up on some keywords.
Something.
But that's all you take. If you ever see, what I've noticed about like some of these NSA videos, they like show these screens in the background. It looks like they're just scrolling through text. So whether it's voice converted to text or just text that they're looking at, they're just scrolling through streams of text, man. Fuck.
Honestly, though, if Facebook continues this way, I don't see them around in the next 10 years. I do not. I mean, you might see it. They might still be a platform that's out there, but honestly, I think that you're right. He did hand over the keys to the government agencies and the investors.
Mm-hmm.
Sure.
Well, in order to make money and make it a viable company, you bring on the ads. That's nauseating enough. Then you force ads at people. Then you start selling their data. Then you start turning them in, and
Unfortunately, that is the sad thing that you're going to have to do if you're going to have a social media website. You are going to have ads. You are going to have to pay for this shit somehow, without as much overhead. But what Facebook has done is so much worse.
Yeah, no, they're doing it for political reasons. They've signed on with the Democratic Party. Mark Zuckerberg is tied into a big-time Democrat, Harvard-connected family, and that's what you get. New York-style business. If you don't like it, you can just go fuck yourself. See, they don't care.
Yeah, and then the worst part is, you can argue this shit all day in court, which I've seen the court cases where they have sued Facebook, and I saw this one. It was all called Truckers for the Constitution, and it was a court case out in 2013. I don't think they won, and but essentially, when you sign up for Facebook, all of your pictures, your file, it all is property of Facebook. It's not yours.
Yeah, that's the scam of it. They claim all of it. They're going to keep it all. Whatever you put up there, they're keeping it all.
Yep.
Yeah, it's disappointing.
Well,
but in Mark Zuckerberg's case, very, very predictable because he is who he is. And
well, I mean, if you think about it, it is the world's largest databases of everybody's dirty little secrets, and we've seen countless court cases where they brought in social media transcripts, which is brings us into a new era of how can we trust the sites that we use? How can we trust what you say and what you do? Because it can always be used against you in a court of law.
Yeah, somehow it gained some kind of God, I don't even know what to do, legitimacy to it. It's just like, oh, well, we have his Facebook data. Like, that's like some bad shit. We got his Facebook data. We got him, as if that has some legal credibility in it. It's just like, okay, hey, it's this. What are you saying? It's his pictures and text that he put up on his social media site. It's like, so what?
And there's people that say things on social media just to get a rise out of people. It's not actually what they mean. They're trolls that say stuff that make absolutely no sense just to get the rise out of people. But is it what they actually going to do? Are they actually going to do the things they say? Absolutely not.
They've got lazy about it. It's easy for law enforcement to get. It's like, hey, we just call Facebook, they dump it all to us. So, and then there's your case. Well, what is it a case? It's like, hey, this is just this guy's. It's almost like a diary, like having somebody's diary. Well, it's just his thoughts and things he said, or what. That's not a legal case, see. But I'm telling you, it's a number of times now. It's just like, oh, they've got his Facebook account. It's like they've got everything you ever said, and it's just like, well, so what? It's a pre-crime. What it is they're introducing you to this pre-crime idea that what you said and did on Facebook equals a crime, which we now prosecute you for. See, that's and I mean, if you mouth off enough for how many hours every day, like all these Facebook folks do, 6 or 8 hours a day, and hey, I'm guilty, but not that many hours, too, is now it's being used against you.
Yeah.
And it's just that whole pre-crime, well, we think, just like the clip we don't like, or, we're shutting you off before, and you don't get to say anything about it. It's not a true legal system, or there's no arguing about it. It's a master-slave relationship where, no, we didn't like what you did, Tyler. We're shutting off your account. Fuck you. It's
Watch, my account goes down tomorrow, right? Oh my gosh, shit.
Yeah, there's no saying you're sorry, or there's no taking it to court or fighting for your rights, because you don't have any, unfortunately. But
wasn't there a movie on that? Wasn't there a movie on that with Tom Cruise where they arrested people based on stuff that they did? God, so behind on everything.
Shoot! Hey, they're actually doing this. Chicago police are getting big into this pre-crime. If they can get you into certain profiles, it's like you can be looked at real heavy. You're being targeted before you do anything. Hey, you might have all the profile, or, and as we know, you might say a whole lot of things that you never act on, right?
Yeah.
I mean, but they've got you profiled now, so, if there's any suspects we need to round up, then you'd be on the list. It's like, geez, what else?
I don't know. It's a different world that we live in. That we were told that the world was when we grew up. I'm awake now, so either we can do something about it, or we can just stand along and do nothing about it.
Yeah, there's no change in Facebook. I mean, that's obvious. You just say, well, the answer there is like, okay, well, hey, fuck Facebook. You move somewhere else. That's the answer.
That's the answer.
It really is. I mean, because Facebook's not going to change. They're not interested.
They'll sure change their story once their stock price goes down below. What is it at today? Hold on. Facebook stock.
Yeah, and hey, look at it this way. Hey, if the thing tanks, would the government even care? It's like, hey, we shut down. That's a huge amount of censorship right there. If Facebook goes down, big deal.
I just imagine Mark Zuckerberg crying. He's like, can't you damn me after something you did about me? It's only worth 25 cents a share now, and I'm bankrupt. My Asian wife hates me. I mean,
well, why did MySpace fail? What happened there? People all of a sudden went to Facebook, but there was a pretty good. Man, there was I want to say there was 100 million people on MySpace at one time. I mean, I might be full of shit, but
no, there was quite a bit, and
there was a lot of people there. So like, what happened?
I couldn't tell you even if I wanted to. That point in my life was a blur towards the end. But I think, didn't Tom sell it? Tom, the main guy, he sold it to somebody else. I know that.
Yeah, man. He's a Hollywood star.
Oh, yeah, the singer, right? He sold it to him for like $8 million.
Justin Timberlake, is that right?
I think so.
Okay. Yeah, I don't know what his angle was there. It wasn't for a whole lot of money. I guess it was, to guys like us, 10 million or 40 million or something. But yeah, and then I guess it's still there. I don't know what he intends to do with it.
Well, I mean, it's always out there in the open, but a lot of not a lot, but there's some artists that will still put their stuff on there. I don't know. Let me go to MySpace.
Oh, really?
It's changed a lot since I've been on there. Hold on, MySpace.com.
I used to have an account years ago. I gave up on that.
I think I have an old profile with MDMA pills all over the place. I'm not joking.
May not want to bring that up.
Yeah, oh God, I have some incriminating pictures of my past up there, right?
And they will be used against you. I'm sure MySpace will sell them.
I think I have this really bad picture of I have an AA book, and there's like some white powder all over it, and just like a bunch of MDMA pills shaped like a rainbow. Yeah, I was pretty bad back in the day, dude. Oh, God. I don't even think I was sober for a minute then. Yeah, things change. You grow up, and you realize, that your life is messed up because you're on a lot of drugs. But so another thing we wanted to talk about, was Camp Liberty, which is out there in Pahrump, Nevada. Now, you told me the other show we didn't fortunately get Roxy on the show, but they were given. You told me that they were given. They were told to evacuate.
Yeah, they were given that. God, it was either like Monday or Tuesday. They were given a 24-hour eviction notice, which they avoided by. Well, they did leave the location where they were at, even though they weren't really. I mean, that whole thing wasn't legit. They probably could have stayed there, honestly, but they moved to about a quarter mile down the road. And I believe they're paying a landowner to stay on a corner down there now, and so they've got another camp set up, essentially in the same area, just outside the prison. And they're continuing their actions, marching around the prison at least once a day that I know of, maybe multiple times. A little bit bigger crowd. I think they're up to maybe 40 or 50 folks now. They had a barbecue this weekend, so even more coming in. So yeah, it's continuing on. Nothing really new to report there. Just activities are continuing. They have a pretty good. They got portable, porta potties brought in. There are facilities there. It's not totally a campsite, but so they are making somewhat of a kitchen and so forth. But yeah, you still need to bring your own stuff. You're pretty much out in the desert.
Yeah. Now I did see them go live on their Facebook Live thing where they did have that mock jail cell, and they were putting people in it. It was to raise money.
That's correct. Yeah, for the defense, mainly for I guess it's a Bundy defense, but there are a lot of others, that are doing things for the political prisoners out there. There's about 50 of them in total, between Bundy Ranch, the Oregon issues. So, yeah, there's a lot of funds, a lot of commissaries that need to be taking care of their travel back and forth.
Yeah.
I mean, it's hurt a lot of families. No doubt about it.
Yeah, somebody was saying a 3x cell Ammon was in.
It was a 3x3. Yeah, they're calling it the torture chamber. It's really a 3x3 box that they'll stuff you in for a while if you want to try to relive it, or
honestly, I'd probably go crazy, man.
See how long you can take it. Yeah, most people aren't lasting very long. I think the longest guy, you get in that 4 and 5 hour range, and they're not making it.
Yeah,
that's about it.
I think the longest I was in any place was an A block. There was a riot that had broken out on the top tier, or another wing of the jail. I wasn't in prison, and was still fighting my case. And I remember I went kind of crazy. I didn't see the sun for 2.5 months. Stuck in a cell. Yeah, crazy, dude. Yeah, they weren't giving us chow. There were showers in the cell, so it was like a 4-man cell. I went fucking nuts, dude. You start believing what people are telling you. You go into this like delusionary world where I don't understand how any of that could be therapeutic to anybody. A lot of stuff we see in the prison system is just not the way you deal with somebody who's done something bad in their life. And a lot of, in the case you're dealing with, they absolutely did nothing wrong,
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're at the intersection of government's desire for power and your rights, and it's not what you think. I would say all activists seem to find this out at some point. If you're into anything hard enough and long enough, you or go to any of these protests, you see how it works. It's not like you think.
Yeah, I remember. You remember the? Do you remember the? Oh, you're not a local, but my local city. We do have a communist party out here, and they were saying
they're big in Austin.
Yeah, they were saying that the Anons at MMM in my city had served no purpose because ultimately it did nothing. But somebody who says that, you got to think what kind of mindset that they're in, because protest is something that we do have. It's or they're actually trying to take that away, that right. With those SB bills that were coming around this year, which will be back. They probably will be back, but
and some of them passed. There's a few, they're going that civil asset forfeiture route. And if you're an organizer, much less a protester, if you're an organizer now, or you're liable, and it's just all bullshit, man. You can't. They'll get away with it as long as people put up with it. But they're clamping down more and more.
Well, yeah, the Senate bills that we were seeing were a little more drastic. It was almost as though anybody who was in the organization or planning phase, if something violent broke out, they not only could they imprison you, but they could also take away your property. Ain't that some shit?
Yeah, the drug war expanded to the rest of everything now. It's just, hey, they got away with it there, and they've been doing it so long. It's like, hey, we'll just apply this over here now. Everybody's going along with it. It's totally unconstitutional, but hey, that doesn't stop us. So we'll just apply it over here. It'll work.
And you know what the worst part is? They want you to file with the local city governor or city or wherever the hell you file it, and they want you to essentially tell the people that are oppressing you that you're going to protest. Why the fuck would you do that?
Well, you need a permit, right? Yeah. So just go over to your little First Amendment zone over here, Tyler, and you can speak over there. It'll be about 50 miles out in the desert. Everybody will hear you. That's your little box. You just sit there and you can talk from that box, but nowhere else.
Well, it's it just gives them essentially what this is.
It's ridiculous.
It gives them a paper trail. It gives them a paper trail on who to incriminate when shit goes wrong.
Well, yeah, and you see the organizers because you're obviously the guy. Who? How convenient. Gee, right where to go to. Yeah, they're taking away your right to assemble. That's what it is. They don't like that. And you see that anywhere the assembly. Where I saw that really for sure was in Vegas in 2000. There was a crowd of people. The crowd got a little too big there in the center of in Vegas. And the cops got spooked just because of the size. Not that there was anything going on. And they started the action, man, breaking everything, shut the fireworks show down, et cetera, et cetera. And you're like, hey, what? And you come to find out later that nothing happened. They just didn't like the size of the crowd. They got spooked. So, you don't even have to do anything.
All right, I'm getting reports that are audio cut out. Alan, I know you can't hear me, but I did experience that. That is something that I have experienced, and like I said, I've done everything to the back end. I've lowered the bitrate upload link. Let me try again. Oh God, let me go to settings. Everything should be good. I've lowered all the sampling rates. Great, more censorship, right? Yeah, that is no. It's probably leaning more towards an error
Well,
on
yeah,
the
it's hard.
Facebook end.
You want to say tech issues, but when it goes on long enough and you hear different people, different groups all having the same problem, that's not an accident.
Yeah, and it seems to be happening more often as their show was getting bigger and bigger. It's almost as though it's starting to look deliberate. Yeah. Watch. You'll see Tyler. He's like, "What did Tyler do? Oh no, he dropped like $3,000 on all these wires and antennas and pirate radio." Bringing it back. It's actually cheap as fuck to make those things.
Yeah, if you do the low power radio thing, that's God. We had a guy here. Man, this goes back into like the 70s, I believe. He had like a bootleg radio station, and it caught on quick, and then he got onto a small station and then bigger. But yeah, he turned it into a big rocker. On the radio show, he died years ago, but it shows you how it can work. I mean, when he came up from one of those bootleg stations,
Well, essentially, even if you get caught with it, it's not really that much of a fine. It's like up to $10,000 fine if you get caught by the FCC. And if you're broadcasting FM, FM is always line of sight. You live in a city, you want to broadcast, you want to hit a larger area. You really don't need that much equipment, but if you're on top of a building, your radius, like a high building, you can get a really good coverage area of a portion of the city. Now, if you go AM, your as far as you can broadcast even goes further, but you won't be getting stereo sound. You'll be getting the monaural sound with the background sound, which is essentially what it is. I looked into it. It's essentially what you're hearing is background radiation. So, but it's always something.
And like anything, they're going to harass you. They're going to see you. If you do get caught, it's like a drone. Up like say it's standing around. They're going to take your shit or confiscate it for a while and give you a hard time. So you better know the rules on the thing and you'll be able to explain yourself. They might even take you to court, but you got to be able to hold your ground. I mean, it's like anything else. It's any other technique.
Watch, like Tyler got caught.
What did he get busted for? Oh, he had a 5-watt radio. Like, oh fuck, 5 watts. Yeah, that's serious, man. Yeah, let's hammer 20. What do you think? That's 5 years, Tyler. Should we make it 10?
I've seen kids coming out of the UK where they're in some serious wattage range. So, you just got to be kind of careful when you put your antenna so you don't like get, what is that shit sticking out of your house, man? Oh, don't worry about it, bro.
Yeah.
But yeah, just another example, that Facebook might be either really fucking up real bad or it's actually deliberate, because on our end, we're seeing everything coming in fine, but this is countless times over and over again we're dealing with the same issue, and I've changed all the settings on the back end. So
okay. Well, are there any questions and comments? Anything coming in?
Let me see. If these guys these days traveling through country, states, state cops seize the money and the power vehicles again. Other people are talking about the audio cut. Let me go to the manager page so I can see all the comments. MySpace was cool. Good night. MySpace was cool. Yeah.
Yeah, at the time, yeah, it was. It was all right.
Remember, you had to Jimmy rig everything so that you could have that cool ass backgrounds.
God, what I really missed was that, was it Napster? I mean, I don't know what year that was, but man, Napster was like a slick way to go there for like a year and a half, maybe.
Well, there was Napster, and even I was big on it. I think when I was on Napster, the original, when I first heard about it, I was young. I was hooked up on a 56K modem, so it took me about 20 minutes to download, like one MP3, but. Then there was LimeWire and all stuff like that. I remember I still had some of those files up until recently when I had a 1 terabyte tower or external hard drive. Like it was a 2 terabyte external hard drive, and it just fucking crashed. Like it was on its last leg, dude. And the worst part is I didn't have a backup for the backup, and I lost all of the music. I was pretty pissed. And
I imagine you.
It didn't, it wasn't like really bad to the point where the hard drive was you can remap it and get out specialized software to try and go anywhere. No, the internal platters just split it was done, dude. Physically damaged.
Mm-hmm.
Not gonna pay somebody thousands of dollars to rescan everything. It's done, dude. Was I crying a little bit? I was pissed.
Yeah, it's a lot of work.
I think a majority of it I got from the Pirate Bay. The commie unchoice announced the reopening of Clinton's. Oh, there was something else you wanted to talk about in the background.
DNC blocking.
FBI investigation of servers.
FBI, right? Yeah, of their own servers and systems. And why did they do that? Because they didn't want anybody to know about the questions being given. Remember, that was the Donna Brazile thing with the questions being given to her at the CNN debate. But the even bigger thing is the leaked emails through Seth Rich, showing essentially, well, it's going to show the rigging the party in the primaries against Bernie Sanders. I mean, that's pretty much already out there anyway.
Yeah.
But I mean, he was the big. That was the big leak. Was looks like Seth Rich was the one getting to WikiLeaks, and next thing you know, he shows up in what they called, I guess, burglary at the time. But he had 4 shots in his back, and he was allegedly dead there in front of his DC apartment or condo. So what that looks like, I mean, if you're not, it is another Hillary Clinton body count, right? I mean,
pretty much.
That would be, yeah, I mean, it directly ties into her, getting the primary and the rigging and all of it. And then the other thing that's going on, so that's one part of it. It's just like they're blocking the investigation, which is interesting because they tried to blame all that on the Russians when it was an internal leak. So
speaking of which, James Comey had some notes. I remember did you hear about this?
Notes on Trump. Yeah, right. Yeah, this goes back to this whole Russia, that might be a different aspect of the Russian leak or, Russian data being given. I mean, there's so many different aspects of this going on now. It's like leaked data to Russians. At the same time, Comey is doing some illegal. It's like, hey, if you knew that, you didn't turn it over to any congressional investigators. You kept that information to yourself, which is illegal. So, I mean, Comey has a lot of issues. He's tied into the Clintons. He's got Russian contacts. He was over the HSBC cartel money laundering. I mean, the guy's got a lot of baggage, okay?
Yeah.
and so careful, I guess, what you believe coming out of his mouth. But the other thing that tied in with Seth Rich was Washington, D.C. detective coming out on the news now saying that they were told to stand down on the murder investigation. So, here we go with the cover-up. So that you can not only cover up his leaks, but promote this narrative that it's the Russians that did all this. And then try to tie that and throw that on Trump's back.
I just found it kind of, I'm not a Trump supporter at all, but a lot of this, the Russians are the enemy. The Russians are the enemy. The Russians are the enemy. I just don't buy into this bullshit because I know it's bullshit. It's all fucking bullshit.
It's too contrived, and it doesn't add up. You parse through all their bullshit, and the Democrats are basically grabbing at straws, trying anything they can to slow things down and get in the way and try to promote their deep state agenda. I mean, that's what's going on. They love the deep state. That's the kind of
there was talk of
government
there was talk of
control freak likes.
Yeah, there was talk of impeachment proceedings. That's where they want to take it.
Yeah. Meanwhile, the Hillary Clintons of the world, the Podestas that do have actual Russian contacts, that are trying to sell uranium from land that a rancher still owns, but we got trying to run him off. We're not going to look into that kind of criminality and how that's being done via the institutionalized criminality of the government and the bureaucracies and everything. We're not going to talk about that. So it's very selective.
Well, I remember the same tactics that they're doing now. They were doing towards the Cold War. When in actuality, when they say that that we're at war with the communists and the Russians, when we found out towards the end of the Cold War that they were in fucking shambles.
Oh yeah. It was just a narrative we had to keep everybody scared, keep the interest alive, and keep the money flowing into the military-industrial complex. That's the main thing. Yeah. So that's going on, the hearings, et cetera, et cetera. But what's disturbing, for me, I'm more on a right-wing side, but is the caving in of the Republicans going along with this half-brain scheme of the Russians did it with the Democrats. It's comical, man. It just shows what true pieces of shit like Lindsey Graham and the John McCains.
Watch, they're going to find it. They're going to put the Guccifer 2.0 files from the Clinton group administration hack will be Russians, right? Because some kid used a Russian VPN, right?
Yeah. And there's nothing there. And hey, you know what? Even if there is, hey, look, we all spy on each other. It's not like we've never spied on the Russians, and we've never gotten any data we weren't supposed to have from the Russians. So get over it, okay? There's real, there's real stories along those lines to worry about, and then there's this crap they're pushing down.
Well, it's all a big game, and they always you see these blame games going on where they're all high-fiving each other when nobody's looking. Like, hey, look, everybody thinks we're a fucking piece of shit. You'll be the cool guy next week.
Yeah, everybody keeps, the New York Times article. Well, if you go back to that New York Times article, that is like the source of the whole thing. Their source is a document from some third-party IT guy that doesn't even really work for the government. That's your fucking source. For the whole thing. So, yeah, it's pretty flimsy. You chase that one down, it's just like, oh my God.
It's almost as bad. It's almost as bad as the weapons of mass destruction in Iraq.
Yeah. You got to know Well, especially with these politicians, they're so bad that you can actually look at them and you know they're lying to you. They're not even good liars. And I mean, and if you can't notice that by now, something's wrong with you. You know, whether they got an R or a D next to their name, you know, it's not much difference.
Well, I don't, you know,
And they're just willing to cave in rather than do the right thing and support somebody trying to do a more right thing. They'll just go right to this deep state intelligence security military network as if they're the government now. Like, we need to protect that. It's not your rights. It's not the government itself. It's, you know, this deep state, or, you know.
Yeah.
Why would I give a shit about the deep state? What's that all about? What is the deep state anyway? That doesn't even sound like an elected government to me. You know, what is that?
Yeah.
And they're all worried about it, like, oh God, you know. It's like, they're just all mentally ill from my perspective.
I was going to go on a tangent. I was going to say that, you know, if you impeach Trump, you're going to get Mike Pence. And I'm like,
yeah.
I know Trump is really, really bad, but do you really want somebody who's worse?
Yeah, you genius liberals, if you haven't figured out where this goes, it doesn't solve your problem.
No, and I don't understand, and I don't understand how, you know, people's logic. You know, I was hearing this about I watch a lot of RT, and they were saying that millennials should be voting. I don't know. There's this kid that said he was I think he said he was a Republican, and but he was saying that you know, millennials should be, for some reason or other, he was saying millennials should be voting in the more independent parties. And I'm just thinking in my head, you know, even if there was like a 3-party system, you know, has voting ever really changed anything about the political structure? And I don't see it. It'll never happen.
It's minimal, you know.
There's not going to be this magic change within the dynamics of how America political system works until you just wipe it all out and see what it is. It's a sham. It's a charade, you know.
Yeah, look what like when I go to an election here, say a local election, what do I get to vote for? A couple of city council, a mayor, and they give me the glory of about 4 or 5 bond elections, none of which I'm interested in. You know, yeah, well, here, vote for these bonds. You know, that's it. That's all you get to vote on. You don't seem to get to vote on, hey, I got the scumbag city commissioner or city manager that's making like $400,000 a year. What can we do to shave her salary down a little bit, because she's obviously making too much money. You know, but no, you don't get a vote on that. That's just a done deal. You know, she's one of the boys now, and that's just her salary, right? You know, so shut up.
Yeah.
That's your rights. You know, that's as far as they go. Oh, and hey, don't get too mouthy, you know, at city hall meeting, because we'll throw you out and ban you. Not that that's legal, but we're going to do it anyway because we're San Antonio, Texas. That's what the police chief goes for. So, yeah, you know, good luck with that.
I think in my city, I think every elected official has a felony at some point or another.
Oh yeah, Chicago. Yeah, you're like New Orleans. I mean, it's just like, oh my God, you can't. How can you get through corrupt? And it's institutionalized. It's been going on so long. I mean, it is the system. It's an institutionalized criminal system called the government. You know, how do you fix that? You know, there's no way. They don't let you have a say in it. Oh, you can vote for this guy, that guy. Yeah, he's our groomed next lieutenant that will push in there, you know, for the cartel, but you don't get to vote on that. So yeah, so we're screwed. That's
well, you know, my solution has always been, I've told people before, you know, it's what is it going to take for the average citizen to realize that, you know, they can't handle their money. They work for the elite. You know, they don't even print their own money. and they know it, and they've done, our money system is, it's pretty much fucked. What's it going to take for the average citizen to rise up, realizing that it has to be destroyed in order to be rebuilt,
Yeah, everybody's afraid of that one.
Yeah. Things have to get real bad,
Yeah, you can't get most people motivated to even become an activist to do anything, much less actually fight the government.
Well, I mean, look what we did. Look what we did. When we realized that the British were fucking us over. That didn't start off a protest. Now we started burning shit and destroying things.
Yeah, because to them a 3% tax on tea was outrageous. And look at the shit we put up with now, 30-40% taxes.
It's actually more. It's actually more when you include sales tax.
Oh yeah, it's huge. The rates that they would. Well, and even if you're a Bible banker, I mean, anything over 10% is oppressive, right? So yeah, we just put up with all this crap. Even the religious, it's like, oh well, just go along and then if you're a socialist, you believe in a lot of taxes. Hey, that's 60, 70, 80%. Yeah, because we got all these programs, man. We got to get this done. And
I would socialism or social. I mean, in essence, it's a great idea, but it never really. I don't know. In some places it pans out well, but a lot of places it doesn't. Same thing with a lot of people are gonna not agree with me, but Marxism and socialism on
sure.
On paper looks great, but it doesn't go it never, when you actually try and implement it never really works out right.
It does seem to work, and in some, they put up with it. It's like, say, in Norway, Sweden, Finland. There are places that seem to handle themselves and can manage it properly. Still at high tax rates, but it seems to work. At least for now. But in every other location, if it's Central America or South America, oh my God, it's just Venezuela. I mean, just look at it. It almost always decays into the worst hellhole you can imagine. There's no toilet paper. There's no food. Nothing works. It's just like
everybody's broke.
How do you get there? Yeah, there's no jobs. We nationalize everything. Fuck all that up. The industry that we did have. It's like, okay, whatever. It's just so pathetic. We should be beyond this, But the fact is, hey, these bankers and elites, they use these crappy styles of government, like socialism, to do this to you. That's how they keep you in control. We promise you a lot of shit. We fuck it up at some point down the road, and we go, oh well, we'll have to do it again. Now that's the solution. We need to do it again.
Well, I don't know. I mean, the way the U.S. dollar is going, eventually it will collapse on itself. Eventually we will see the repercussions of when the American dollar becomes. I don't think it's going to come as soon as the financial and economic, people have been saying it, but eventually it will happen, and then you're going to see widespread chaos. Then you'll see what happens when nobody can pay for anything.
Yeah, we actually crossed some big financial numbers several years ago. You get over 100% debt to GDP, you're in a huge danger zone. Most governments don't pay down enough or don't control and manage the debt from that point on to keep things going. That's your first major point. But now you're into this 125%. So if you get around 150 or 150% or so, it's pretty much the death knell of the government. You don't come back from it.
I've heard statistics that said if the money was managed right, in a hypothetical situation, it would take 3 generations to pay off the national debt.
Yeah, you could do it. I mean, it's a huge number, but you could do it. It's like anything. You got high credit card debt, but you're still at a manageable level. But if you get into this accelerated mode where, like we are, we're still blowing $1 trillion, $2 trillion a year here, looks like about $2 trillion a year. Well, it's unsustainable. There's nothing more unsustainable than socialist thinking, and that's what we've fallen into. So here in a few years, you're going to, if you can't turn that around and get control of your money and quit acting like a drunken sailor, and that's not fair to drunken sailors. Let me say that right now. You guys do it for a reason. You know, this government, they don't have a reason to act like a drunken sailor. See,
Well,
so it's not okay.
I do think they are doing it for a reason, and I think the system was designed to collapse on itself for another system. You know that.
Yeah, so they can bring in something crappier. Of course, they'll have to have martial law and everything else in between, you know, to make that happen.
Look what's going on in Greece right now. They're thinking about auctioning off Greece.
Yeah, they sold themselves. They sell off their country.
Yeah, I think
the bankers, what bankers will do is loan too much money to a foolish socialist in government if they'll sign the paperwork, because they know they got you 5-10 years down the line. When you F it all up, they'll own everything, and that's what they did for Greece.
Yeah,
and everybody's clapped and said, "Oh yeah, when it first went to EU, oh yeah, this is great. Oh man, we got all our free stuff. Everything's great." And now's payday. You know.
Watch that'll soon happen in America. You know, Chinese will be like, yeah, well, you haven't paid off your fucking loans yet. You want,
yeah.
You know, we want California. You know.
Yep. Selling off your resources. They're shutting down the West anyway. So what's all part of the plan? Shut the people out in the West, get them out of the way so that they can sell the resources to China or somebody else down the road after they steal them from everybody that owns them now. It takes some time. They got a long-term plan. I mean, they stay on it. I'll give them credit for that.
Well, the system, you know, as I do, you know, the spending is out of control. I think they just approved a new $500 billion
like a 6-month, $1 trillion. It gets them to September or some shit
for the military.
You know, it's like, yeah, more money for the military. What do they need more money for? They spend 10 times as much as the next guy. What's the problem?
And how much does an F-22 cost? What was it, like $1 billion, something like that?
Yeah, it's outrageous. Like, come on, man. I mean, even if they've got the most high-tech nano fiber, carbon fiber, whatever on that thing, it don't cost that much.
No.
And even if the guy hand glues by hand all that shit together, it still don't cost that much. You know, so.
Watch. I can imagine some guy in the defense spending budget saying in the background, "I know this guy in Russia. He could make that shit half price."
Yeah, I guarantee that stuff's jacked up 50 times what it actually cost them. Because come on, $1 billion for a plane. I mean, if you whittled it out of solid carbon fiber, dude, I don't think it would cost that much.
Well, how much did those SR-71s cost? Remember, they're outrageously expensive. And they only fly 425 miles an hour. Their radar undetectable, and they only can drop like 4 bombs.
Yeah, see, there seem to be some issues with it. So yeah, how did we get suckered into this bad plane that nobody likes that costs too much money? You know, corruption. I tell you, that's the only way. You know, military-industrial complex style corruption is how you get there. It's a lot of fat cats stuffing a lot of cash in their pocket, and you're getting a crappy product out the exit in. That's what's happening. And having worked for a big Dow 30 corporate company that interfaced with all these other companies that build all this military gear, you get to see a little bit of that here and there and see how it really is from the supply side.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a hoot, man. Like all that aluminum that he was talking about that blew out the shuttle engines. Yeah, that came from an atomizer plant up here at just north of Austin.
Yeah.
Makes all the metal flake for Morton 5 call, man. So yeah, you know. So you can blame Alcoa.
Yeah, I was surprised at all that information from our guest. I didn't even know half of that stuff, but you know, something I'm definitely going to look into for the next few days.
Yeah, he's got a huge treasure trove there.
I was always under the impression that they were also using some form of silicon for cloud seeding, but maybe all of those. I have seen something I forgot to ask him. There's some photos going around on the internet with Boeing 757 style planes, with jets on the side of them that are. I don't know if they're doctored or faked, but there might be more truth to what. I don't know. I'm always.
Well, that was probably to me. That was probably an R&D aircraft. I wouldn't doubt that there's probably quite a few of those 4 or 5 that they've been, But those would be like test vehicles. The majority of it is coming through the fuel that they serve up to the regular aircraft. And then, like you said, a computer system that plans the grids and the flight plans and all. That's the way it's being done. 90% of it.
Well, yeah, I was aware that when you burn stuff, especially flammable fluids, that there are certain things that come out. Like a lot of people are not aware, and I learned this through watching I forgot what show. That when you drive your car and it goes through the catalytic converter, there's certain amounts of platinum or palladium also, I think, or many nickel metals. And essentially all of that comes out in the exhaust, which on a microscopic level. And this guy was saying that if you wanted to sweep the freeways, essentially you could probably get a couple grams of platinum. So yeah, I'm kind of aware that it does come out the exhaust.
Yeah.
So if you want to get rich real quick, go sweep the freeways, right? But no, you need an insane amount of freeway dust to get it.
Yeah, no, it's already blown off everywhere. Most of it, yeah.
Yeah, but essentially, if they are doing climate or if they're doing what they're doing on such larger level, can it put the natural rhythm of the homeostasis of how weather patterns are in this world completely out of whack?
I tend to think it can't, because you look at the amount of energy that's in the atmosphere, or that's exchanged at all times. Just even the wind. I mean, it's a huge amount of power. Now you can you do certain things to like take moisture out of the air and all that? Yeah, and then the smoke clouds for reflectivity and so forth. But I think you can do it like on a regional basis with a lot of effort. By the way, I mean, think of the thousands of planes that it takes every day to do this.
Yeah,
I mean, it's no small effort. So, yeah, you can do it, but globally, I don't buy that.
You think if everybody stopped doing what they're doing, it would just return to its original patterns?
Yeah, I think the patterns that's there kind of override all the old adage, you can't fight Mother Nature, right? I mean, that's true. You can't. There's no way to do that. If there's some big change in the weather, a natural change in the weather system or flooding and so forth, well, it's going to happen. You might trim it a little this way or that way with your efforts, but that much of it is going to happen. Well, that's my take on it. I look at it as like a trim or a tailoring mechanism rather than can we just blanket? I don't think we can. I mean, you just look at it on the globe. I mean, can we blanket the whole atmosphere continuously with chemtrails? Well, the answer is no. I mean, there's too much weather there that swirling around. Just you can't do it. Not on a true global scale.
God, there was something else. There's something else I wanted to ask him. Because I was living out west when it used to rain. It didn't used to leave like water spots, on the cars and stuff. But when it rains out here, it leaves massive amounts of water spots. And I was digging through a lot of science articles. I couldn't find out the actual reason why out here I don't know. I was always in the assumption that some sort of natural filtration process. When it goes up, and now it's probably leading more towards geoengineering.
Well, rain does have a cleaning aspect as it falls. If you have a lot of soot or dirt in the air, you'll get some spotting like that. It's localized conditions. Maybe around a city, I think big city especially, I'd expect some of that.
Yeah, I was kind of surprised about that. I couldn't find any local articles on it or why it was happening. But it was kind of like, when I was a kid, it used to rain back out west. We didn't used to see that kind of shit. So maybe there is something out here that I'm not aware of. I don't know.
Yeah, but the program's real. They are trying. It's like these vaccination programs or anything else. There's all this R&D going on all the time. Now, sometimes you see where it seems to lead into these campaigns or something else going on. You have these outbreaks and so forth. That don't quite look right. But yeah, that's another one. Bill Gates, he's into these huge vaccination and GMO programs and all the rest of it.
Well, yeah. So a lot of these vaccines, the kids are getting, they were saying, they were certain forms of mercury in the suspension, and there was a lot of counter arguments. I looked into the data pretty well, and there was one researcher saying that any form of heavy metals in a suspension for a vaccination is toxic to the body, and they were saying one guy was quoting what the manufacturers were saying, and the other guys were quoting their data, and I'm sorry, I won't believe the pharmaceuticals data because it seems to be a farce, like they're specifically skewing the data. So
yeah, the truth is, you see what the autism rate's going up. That's all you need to know.
Yeah.
Really, the end result of all that is it's not working as good, and you're hurting people.
Yeah.
On a far greater scale than any of this other chemtrail and the rest of it. Gee whiz. Look at the numbers on that. And you go from 1 in 20,000 to 1 in 50. It's like, holy cow.
Yeah.
It's just too much. The technology works, but it's virus schemes and the vaccination technique works, but you've obviously reached a point where you're taking it too far. You're pumping them with too much, and you've gone overboard with it. It no longer is helpful; it's hurtful, and you're getting this result now. They don't seem to want. Their idea is to pump you up with more so they can make more money. That's their big driving force. That's what they force you to go into, despite the medical that's showing you that it's screwing you up.
Yeah. Are some vaccinations for your own benefit? Honestly, I would say yes, but a lot of them, I would say, they're, I don't think. Well, that's not true. Polio did come back. Some of these diseases come back, but parents should have the right to choose without CPS getting involved. Saying there's child endangerment because you don't vaccinate your kids.
Yeah, because the argument's false. An unvaccinated kid doesn't hurt your kid if he's vaccinated,
well,
right?
Hurts himself.
He's vaccinated. Okay, yeah, is at most going to hurt himself, but you can't prove that.
Nope.
You as a CPS, it's an idea. It's another one of those administrative things that you have figured out in the glass tower over at the CPS HQ, and it's not true. But hey, they're all about politicizing your family now and getting DCF up into your business that they got no business in.
And George Rawls. McDaniel.
Yeah, what I find strange about that issue is whether you're both Democrats and Republicans seem to get into. They can always claim this. Oh, it's for the kids' angle, whatever it is, political that they're pushing, using the CPS and all these schemes. So they're both in on it. And I would me personally, I would expect the Republicans to not be so involved given the medical data, but no, they're right in there with it. It's like, fuck it, it's a good plan. We need to get in everybody's lives and control everything. So it's a good plan.
Yeah, when they always.
And hey, sure, sure, there's some screwed up kids, but so what?
Another thing, I know from working in the medical field, when I was able to, is when they tell you to go get your flu vaccination because you need to be vaccinated for the flu. Don't get it. Don't ever get it. Essentially, what they're doing is they're just selling you off a few strains that they know that are out there, but just because you just got your flu vaccine doesn't mean that you're going to get what's out there. I got my flu shot, and I think one time I did get a flu shot. My dad, I'm not going to get into my dad. I was just saying my dad worked in the medical industry and said that I should get vaccinated one time, and that was the first and last time I got a flu vaccine. I was the one out of every 100 people that gets deathly ill. So.
Yeah, it does. I think I had more negative results than positive on that. I stopped that 8-10 years ago too. It's like, nah. Plus you start you've seen all these other problems and the way they're stored and preservatives and everything. It's like, man, no thanks. It's not for the flu. Hell, because the flu is one thing. It's like if you get the flu, it's not going to kill you, right? It's like, okay, you got the flu, you feel shitty for a while. Do I really need to risk taking a shot for that might kill me, and with bad side effects? Just for the flu? Really?
Well, they got even sillier. They got even sillier medications out there. They got the Tamiflu, which I think is a cyclovir. No, a cyclovir I think is HIV. It's one of the I forget what medication it is, but essentially you need to go to here's the stupid thing about the medication. Okay, is that the flu only lasts for 3 to 5 days. They have a Tamiflu, and you're supposed to take it within 24 hours of getting the flu. Now, I'm just telling you from experience, from being sick and knowing people who get sick. Are you really going to, within that first 24 hours, waste and dump resources on an illness that's only going to last 3 to 4 days? God forbid you don't have insurance, so you're going to pay the doctor $120 for the visit and then another $180 for the pill for an illness that's only going to last 3 days. Come on.
That's crazy, man.
Yeah.
It is. I remember back the old days, I was younger. It's like, hey, you went to work, you just say you felt crappy, you had the flu or whatever it was, you kept working.
Yeah.
It's like, yeah, you just worked through it for a couple of days, hey, you pop out of it. It's
a scam. Tamiflu, or not Tamiflu. Is it Tamiflu? No, Tamiflu isn't the name of it. It's not Tamiflu. Tamiflu is the OTC. It's let me see. It's let me see. Flu medication. Flu RX medication. Flux. Let me see. It's a fucking scam. There's yeah. Oh, it is Tamiflu. Yeah. Oh, Tamivir, and then they got Relenza and Repivav. Yeah, they're fucking retarded. Why would you waste your money on something like that?
I don't know. We get talked into these things somehow.
Well, you
want to believe your doctor. You want to
actually your immune
find
system,
out the problem, but
your immune system is actually worse off. Using an antiviral medication. Actually, when you take these things, it makes you more or less resistant to that, and especially when you're taking the heavy hitter antibiotics. Even taking low grade antibiotics, such as the penicillin VK, shit, I'm drawing a blank. I'm getting tired. But the ones where you take them for a few weeks and then you go over, your immune system is actually worse off in the long run after you take some of these medicines. Your body's better off fighting it off. But if you know your body is battling something for 2 or 3 weeks and it still doesn't go away, then you might want to go look into taking something to your own system to fight it off. But but constantly using antibiotics, is generally not a good solution for your body in the long run.
I've been sick a couple times. I mean, I know the invasive style allopathic medicine. I mean, hey, when your body's screwing up and they need to get in there and intervene to straighten you out, that's what you need. There is a place for it.
Yeah, of course, there's always going to be a place for it. But you get like a sinus infection. There's no way in hell. You should be getting the high dose. The Levaquin and vancomycin. Fucking those are last. I swear to God, I've seen it. I've seen doctors, that will give patients for repetitive sinus infections, probably because they're doing cocaine, or snorting drugs. And I'll spot it in a heartbeat. They'll give them a couple of Vicodins and some Levaquin. Knowing full well that this problem could be solved by letting their body fight it off naturally. Tell them to stop doing cocaine. Probably recommend that they go to a drug and alcohol treatment, and probably the problem will go away on its own.
Yeah.
Oh, somebody's talking. What about the Zika virus? I think we talked about the Zika virus.
Yeah, that was the mosquito-borne. Boy, what was that? No, that's with the encephalopathy, small brains. If the mosquito has it.
Well, didn't they trace that back to genetically modified, genetically altered mosquitoes?
I don't know if that was it or if they were trying to GMO the mosquito to combat it. I've forgotten that one. But that was part of it, this mosquito modification as well. But it just kind of went away. You see how it's just like the Ebola. It's like this is how the news works. It's like a scare program. They're like, oh my God, here's something. Blow it up for a few days
Ebola
on a 24-hour news cycle, and then it just goes away. And you're like, hey, what happened? I thought we were all going to die from Ebola. What happened?
Well, Ebola was one of those weird ones where they found a disease that has been around for 20, 25 years, and they magically found a cure within 90 days. 90 days,
yeah,
90 days
I
of a
want
major outbreak.
to say that was a Rockefeller virus from 47. The Ebola.
Yeah, it was in Sudan, I think.
Okay. And it popped off in several places at the same time. That was in kind of coincidence with these vaccination programs. You see how this could be spread that way if you're a conspiracy person.
Yeah.
So, yeah, it broke out in 3 places.
There's SARS, same thing. The avian flu.
Yeah. A lot of it's, you look at these commercial farming that's going on, the places that do have, whether it's a feedlot for cattle or, too many birds too close together. There's certain concentration levels that, all of a sudden you produce these problems and illnesses and outbreaks. You can only push that, what do you call it, industrialization, to a point before you run into problems.
Yeah.
Looks like somebody popped on here.
Yeah. Yeah, Ebola
Well,
was
what's going on?
Ebola was one of those bad ones where it, liquefies your organs.
Yeah, it is nasty. God, I mean, I don't know. There seems to be a program there, one of them wanting to get that foaming at the mouth zombie that you see in the comic book seems to be something they actually want to reproduce. And it looks like if you kind of cross Ebola with rabies, that you're getting pretty close to that. That zombie war intrigues them for some reason.
Yeah. Well, we got somebody in the comments talking about free Kodak. What? What? Hold on, I gotta look this up real quick. Lewis, I don't know what you're talking about.
We don't know what we're talking about.
No,
I'm
I don't know.
not an expert on it.
I don't know what Lewis is talking about. Free NBA Youngboy. Free my boy Kodak. Or they make drugs like Flocka or bath salts where people act like zombies. Yeah, Gerald. Well, Flocka. Flocka is one of those drugs that comes out of the cathinone family, and yes, a lot of them were. If you know anything, I was involved in the darknet market for a lot of my disease, and a lot of the a lot of those variants of cathinones were around for a while, but a lot of the manufacturers we were finding in the the darknet or the underground market, whether they were either being made domestic or in China. In fact, it was so bad that I believe that China had banned the precursors to cathinones. But yeah, Flocka was a really bad one. Flocka was a really bad one that hit the U.S. Not only can it produce feelings of euphoria and acceleration, kind of like cocaine, it was also inducing delirium, like episodes where people were barking like walruses. We had that one homeless guy eating another person's face. So I believe those are the beta ketones of variant of cathinones. I believe they're DRAs, not DRIs. Is there really a Flocka drug? Yes, there is.
I've never seen it or heard it. Well, I've heard of it, but what is it exactly? What is it? A cross between something or synthetic? What are they doing there?
I'll show you. I'll show you. See, Flocka.
I know it's bad, man. People seem to really go haywire on it, but
I forget the actual name. Flocka Drug Wiki. Hold on. I forget it is Alpha. Oh, this is a long one. Alpha PVP. That's what I thought it was. Yep. And it's a ketone analog of perlintane. Alpha PVP, and then I remember they were coming out with Alpha PHP. Even I experienced weird psychotropic effects from ingesting so much. It's not. So essentially, it's a norepinephrine dopamine reuptake inhibitor. Yeah, but these essentially stem from cathinones. So, yep, it's a synthetic stimulant cathinone class developed in 1960. So these are old drugs that they'll come around. Yeah, so yeah, they'll drugs like this come in waves. If it's not this, it'll come out and something like that. And I always get mad at the status quo news reports that saying there's a new drug out, and essentially these drugs have been around for a long period of time. They just never hit the streets like they did. Like there was another one that was the God, it's even worse than Flocka. Shit, I even got my hands on it on a relapse. DOM, or there was DOC. There was an outbreak of DOC. Which is like a 72-hour LSD trip, but they're in the phenethylamine category of drugs. So you start dealing with the stimulant property and hallucinatory effects. So there was like an outbreak in some bumfuck city where there was like 10 overdoses within like a 24-hour period, something like that, and then it actually ended up becoming an epidemic in one of these cities. It's not as bad as some of the stuff we saw what was going around with the designer JWC analogs that were hitting the street. The synthetic weed that was going around.
Oh, huh.
Yeah.
Well, gotta be careful.
The funny thing is that, even on Erowid, which is Erowid.org, anybody who wants to get educated on any of these things can go and look it up. A lot of people took a lot of dedication to put up experience, dosage range, anything. If you wanted to look up even clandestine chemistry, it's all up there, including, I believe, MAPS. Some of MAPS data is on there. The guys who do the psychedelic and the psychedelic research. I don't know. Well, they've had that website up for like 20 years or something like that.
And what you said it's a research place, so they actually do research in it? Let's say what kind, but...
Oh, what? What'd you say?
Let's see, what kind of research? I mean, it's...
for
I'd
MAPS?
be surprised if you'd be allowed to do that.
Well, MAPS, they do research on only two chemicals, as far as I know. One is LSD, and the other one is MDMA. I believe they're doing it for PTSD, couples therapy, and stuff like that. So.
No.
There are some benefits, to psychedelic chemistry. There was some, big ones that could have had some really good prevalence, and I hate to say this, into the substance abuse range. One of them was ibogaine, and it had some really promising effects for heroin addicts trying to get off of heroin. So who knows?
I guess they're always going to be trying to tweak these things to get around it. It wouldn't seem like you could do that anymore. I mean, it'd just be like this plus any derivative, and would be outlawed.
Well, you know, they say,
However,
you know, the DEA will constantly say that, you know, they have no medical purposes, but the doctors that were experimenting, you know, with patients who were become severely addicted to heroin, you know, they would give them, a dose of, Ibogaine, and 3 days later they were fine. They didn't feel the effects of the withdrawal, and they had some after-lasting effects that kind of deterred them to going straight back to using, which is something you want in the substance abuse field, you know?
Right. Yeah.
But yeah, it's a Schedule 1. It's a Schedule 1 drug, which is deemed to have no medical benefit. Same with CBD oil. So.
Yeah, that part's laughable. No medical benefit, you know, that part of it. If anything does, that unfortunate for their narrative. But
yeah.
The truth is there.
This one guy saying my little brother got hooked at K2 Spice and messed him up, and in a hospital now he has seizures. You know, that was the same thing, Gerald, that we were seeing in our end. We had an outbreak of clients that were strung out on K2, and it wasn't K2. I believe it was some different version of K2 that was out there, and not only were these patients physically addicted to it, they were displaying withdrawal symptoms of alcohol and heroin. So. Some nasty shit.
Well, I was hoping some of these security guys were going to come on today and educate me on some things here.
What happens? It happens sometimes. That remember, like 2 weeks ago, it happened like this. It's just you and me.
No, I actually want to hear some security, man. I mean, see what they got, what their angle is.
Yeah.
Well, it's a Saturday night, right?
Yeah,
I mean, I see the problem here.
Yeah.
Being an old fart like me, you got nothing to do.
Gerald, the next live stream should be on Tuesday at 9 p.m. Central Standard Time. Wish I could talk to Alan Morningstar. If you want to get on the show, send us a PM and we'll get back to you. And on the Facebook page, on the Messenger side. All right. I think I got 30 minutes left. If we can always end it, if you want to end it.
Yeah, I think so. It's kind of hit the end of the road again here.
Yeah. All right, so we'll wrap it up. 3 minutes and 30 seconds, or 3 minutes, 30 minutes, 3 hours, 30 minutes. All right, so we'll run the outro video and then we'll wrap it up. All right, good night. Good night, guys.
All right, thanks for listening, folks.
All right, and I'm going to run the outro video.
I hereby declare this to be an unlawful assembly. I order all those assembled to immediately disperse.
Like your signature video.